here we go. Thursday night. Lots to talk about. Very excited to have everybody here tonight. The audience, the panel. It's going to be a great show, guys. Long week, right? It's Thursday. It feels like it's been, it's like Friday at midnight. But nonetheless, shout out to everybody that's here. Shout out to the great Zuby Tech. I know it's late over there as well. We've got a lot of people here on the panel. We got one person on the panel right now that's also in the same time zone, Zuby. So we've got a late group here, and I'm very excited to have you. Shout out to Hero Down Under. I see JC 2013. Lord Metroid is here. So many great people. Jordan's here. Guys, before we get started, take a second, will you? Hit that like button, if you don't mind. Hit that subscribe button. Your name comes up in lights. If you hear a little coughing here and there, just getting over a little cold, but we're feeling a lot better over here. Lot better. Change of seasons. Lots of gaming news. Unbelievable panel. And we got a couple people joining us in the second hour, too. So, guys, that being said, please tweet it out. Tell a neighbor, tell a family member that we're live. And if you'll take a second to look at that outstanding description right there. I wrote that on lunch today. Don't tell anybody. But I wrote that on lunch today. Look how fantastic that is. Right above it is the join button. And that's how you get your name in green. Over there that you see everybody in the panel in the chat. That's how you get that green on there. You become a Mooch Maniac family member. Means the world to me if you guys would join the channel. We're doing a lot of things over on Twitch. Of course, this weekend, we'll be back over on Twitch doing our Elden Ring run. A lot of fun. Shout out to the great Sin Vendetta, the great Blaze 4K are joining me. They're joining me on the chat. I'm doing the show. I'm playing alone. But they are my guides because we got to get through it for the DLC. And it's the same thing over there as it is here. It's Mooch TV, drop the O's for zeros. M00CHTV. Go over and follow me there after the show. Guys, that being said, let me call out each one of these people one by one that make the show and the channel so great. The great JudaZuk, WoolleyGamer, MumbleRanting Gaming, Tyson Web 509, TrueWiddy, Alphonso Carter, Brap, Damien, the great Jimmy Harrison, who's listening while he's grilling food. Shout out to Jimmy, Andy Hart, Red Hood 420, who's joining us second hour, Ham Solo 05, Rob Jones, Night Ripper 7, Toto Dope, Thumbs, JC 2013, Lord Metroid, Rabbit Got the Gun, Fastbender, Archwar Angel, Biggity 08, Slow-Mo Backslap, shout out to Slow-Mo and the great Gaming Forte, who are going DPS 9 p.m. Eastern right after this show. Guys, go over and check that out as soon as CrossFire's over. Henry Heck, Silent Merc, Ice Queen Gaming, Ocelot, J. Rowe 49, Anthony Dixon, Briarios, I hope I'm saying that right. Briarios, one of our newest Mooch Maniacs, as well as Neil S. Shout out to Neil, I appreciate that. Our major Mooch Maniacs, Hero Down Under, who's here, CR Bruin, Chad Stud, Chris Coleman, Game XP. I just like the name. A2, Kenneth, Cal, Kritopsy, The Elemental Hero, Kenneth, Warawana, Rick L, True Virgil, shout out to True Virgil, Mass Produce, Connor, Nixie, Corey Massey, Game Knobs, Brian East, Craig the Tech Guy, shout out to Craig, Toolman 55, Mash, by the way, I want to say a quick shout out to Mash. Mash came over 3-4 weeks ago when we had Lono on the show, and he gifted so many subs to people. It was outstanding. Memberships to the channel. So shout out to Mash. Appreciate him. Ekim, Bitrate, RPG88, Christian the Bad Gamer, 4-Star General, Truth Serum, your boy Roy, Scolari Brothers, DC Gaming, Miko, Jay Bari, and Gaming with Persona. You guys know what's up, PlayStation, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday mornings. That's how I start my Saturday. That's how I recommend you guys start yours. Tactical Gamer, Danelle Brown, That Guy Smitty, Brian B, a.k.a. Delirium Blades, and our VIP Mooch Maniacs, the Wise Old Gamer, Raji, Domino Zero, and our honorable mentions throughout there without food, water, or toilet, Passive Prophet, Slain, Chilean, General Thad Ape, Shadow Assassin, and our forever Mooch Maniacs, Longshot 316, and the great Optimus Code. Guys, great to see everybody. I see everybody loud and up front in the chat. The chat's going to be wild tonight. It's going to be fantastic. That being said, let me get to this outstanding panel. I was saying it before the show started. I hope you guys appreciate just how great this is. Basement, radio, arcade, podcast. Brap says to me, I'm going to be late. He's not only not late, he's actually on time. The man is an absolute podcast magician. I love it. Brap, great to have you here tonight, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, Mooch, what's going on, man? Love the energy. It's going to be a great show. Great guest, great panel, as always, every Thursday night.
That's right.
Yeah, looking forward to getting into these topics.
Well, listen, Brap, tonight's going to be one of those nights I think you're going to have a star above your head. Tonight's one of those nights where I know you have a lot to say. So I'm excited to hear it. First time, Brap, we've got a couple of special guests on tonight that haven't been on the show. I'll start with the one and only. You guys know him as Detective Seeds, and he's all over Twitter. He's all over YouTube. You can find him on YouTube as well as Detective Seeds. Seeds, great to have you on the show for the first time. Me and you kind of went back and forth on Twitter a bit, reached out to you, said, Seeds, can we get you on CrossFire? You said, absolutely, let's do this. And I love that you're opinionated in all directions. Seeds, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, man. I really appreciate you inviting me on. I look forward to talking some video games, talking the industry in general. So, yeah, I appreciate you connecting and can't wait to chop it up with you guys tonight.
Absolutely, Seeds. And another first-timer to CrossFire, the great Donnie Tweets. You guys know him on Twitter as Donnie Tweets. He's co-host of the Pure Dead Gaming Afterlife podcast. Shout out to Donnie. Donnie, great to have you here with us for the first time, and definitely not the last time for either of you guys. Don, how you doing this evening?
I am very, very well. Thank you for having me. And again, like Brap said, love the energy, mate. You'll be saying all those names in your sleep tonight.
I certainly will be.
And I'll apologise to any of your listeners that need subtitles for the Scotsman over here. So I'm sorry, people.
No, we've got a great audience. They are ready for that, Donnie. You go ahead and speak that language. We have to learn tonight. The great Broken Games HDR is with us as well. You guys know him, host of Weapon Wheel Podcast, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, Sunday nights. BG, you're no stranger at all to CrossFire, and tonight is just one of those nights where you know the news, you do the podcast, you do shows, you do a lot on your channel. Actually, I have to catch up to what the gaming that you do on your channel. But BG, tonight's one of those nights that's great to have you on here because it's a lot of stuff that's come out, it's a lot of interpretation, and I'm excited to hear what your thoughts on it. BG, how you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm good, man. Like you, getting over a little bit of a cold. Might be a thing going around New York. I don't know.
It is.
Yeah. Even my mother got sick, bro. It's crazy. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. Yes, some good topics tonight, so I'm ready.
All right, well, BG, listen, me and you both going to be clear. I had to clear my throat. Literally, it's been an unbelievable, this change in seasons. I have had this unbelievable head cold, feeling a little bit better, but BG's right. It's going around New York, the Northeast. It's that time of year for us. So you guys in the audience are going to have to deal with it. It's just the way it is around this time. But BG, I'm going to put you on the hot seat first here. And I'm going to read you the question, but then I do want to give you a little bit more of a background here from the article, and then I want to get your 2 cents on it. Really, I really got to hear about this. Xbox boss, he's talking about, in quotes, a brand pivot, and it's driven by Gen Z. And the key thing here that I really want to make very apparent to the audience here is, and this is a quote, I believe, from Phil. He says, this notion that Xbox can only be this one device that plugs into a television isn't something we see in the Gen Z research because nothing else is like that for them. He says, now, I mean, a bit of this goes into 2 different categories. Some of them will have an iPhone, some will have an Android, but all games and everything is the same. He's saying all of their stuff is available wherever they want. So for Xbox, our brand pivot, again, this is not me saying this. It's not just a slogan. This is right from Phil. Our brand pivot as we attract and maintain relevance with a younger audience is Xbox is a place where I can find the great games I want to. So, BG, realistically, I don't know if it's necessarily, I pose it in the sense of a question. But I guess the question would be, does he have a point with his Gen Z research? Because, I mean, research is research. But we've heard a lot come out of the Xbox camp before, and I mean Redmond, where they've had their theories on things. And I'll just go ahead and put a few things out there for you. For example, Xbox Play Anywhere, BG, UWP, Game Pass, teraflops, now Steam and Epic on Xbox. There's a lot of things they've told us this is what's going to be our future, and not all of it's really come to fruition. So, BG, all this news that's going on, I know you're involved in it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times I do think Xbox and Microsoft, they look into future trends and they react a little bit too early. Right, a lot of their ideas and the decisions they make are not bad. They're bad at the time where people are not ready to adapt and not ready to change. So they're always trying to be like ahead of the curve, but they're a lot of the times just way too early and acting on it and planning for the future when sometimes you just got to wait a little bit longer because they end up being like the meat shield and the guinea pig and being the ones who jump out the window, reacting to what may likely be the future, but then you take all the hits for it. So sometimes it's just better to just wait. And also with the whole Gen Z thing, it's something that I've had an issue like really believing, because I've talked to it with my podcast mates, and they tell me like stuff like kids growing up, like the younger Gen Z, because Gen Z is like, there's some Gen Z that are like 19 now. I think 19, 20. I forgot what like the top age of Gen Z is right now.
27 is the top age.
Jesus Christ.
Gen Z.
Okay,
Yeah.
So the lower end of Gen Z, I've been told they're not interested in like consoles, which for me, I don't feel like I'm that old, but like when we were kids, it's like, bro, if you did not have a console, you felt so left out.
Right.
Going to school, like you needed a console because everybody would be talking about games, and you just felt so excluded. It was a necessity for you. So to hear kids, like I get it, times change, but consoles still seem very very relevant in pop culture.
Yes.
So it's hard for me to believe that the younger side of Gen Z is really just like, we don't want consoles. We're more interested in actual gaming PCs, and that's influenced by the streamers that they watch. But I've seen some of that. It's just hard for me to believe. Not saying that's not true. It's just hard for me to believe that they're just like completely disinterested in consoles. Like maybe it's somewhere in between, Well,
BG, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, though, because that's the theory. The theory is that this Gen Z and the younger generation, even younger than them, are really interested in PC, and that's fine. I can get behind that thought. But when we always talk about entry level and getting in on the ground level and being able to enjoy games, at the end of the day, and I know a lot of PC people will listen, and I agree, that's fine. They'll say, Mooch, I can build a PC for very inexpensive that plays games very well. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and say, you're right. But let's also call the truth out here. Isn't it also very, in comparison, it's less expensive to purchase a console at $400 or $500 and get in and play these games? And I understand a lot of PC, but well, that's not the same fidelity that I'm playing it at. Yeah, but now we're going up in price if you're talking about being able to play 4K game like a Dragon's Dogma, just to pinpoint 4K 100 frames. Well, that's going to be an expensive PC, but to enjoy a game is visuals, and to get everything you can out of it, a console at $400 or $500 BG, I think that's a good price. And I think a lot of families would kind of wrap their minds still around that, and especially the younger generation, right? Parents are buying these for their kids, and you would think that parents are not going to go spend $2,000 for the first entry point of video games for their son or daughter. So I would think that it would be a console still has relevance, right? I mean, I have kids, I'm telling you right now, they definitely talk about PC and they want one, but they have consoles and they're very, very happy with them. I mean, maybe that's just a me thing. It's a small census. But
yeah, the argument that I've seen is that it's okay. A lot of these kids need a PC anyway for like school or whatever, right? So instead of getting them the basic the PC for their basic needs, a lot of them will be like, oh, I just want a gaming PC instead. That's what I've been told. But to me, there's so much that goes into it, because it's not like PCs are necessarily plug and play. There is a setup to it. So if you get a kid a PC who's may not be the most familiar with it, they're smart. Like they figure stuff out. So give them credit. Like you give a kid a device, they're gonna figure it out. A PC sometimes is on a little bit more of a complex level. So it's not like a console where you give it to them. They can literally just plug it in themselves, put in the game, turn it on. There's a little bit more involvement in that, to where I'm like, I can't imagine every parent is on board with getting a PC yet because of that and everything that it entails. But it's the kids wanting PCs is becoming more and more of a thing, I guess.
Yeah. Now, Donnie, what do you think? I mean, you've heard my take, you heard BG's, and I do see Kenneth here. I do have to make a quick comment here. Kenneth says, I can build a really good PC for $500. I don't think that Kenneth's wrong at all. My whole point is just that for $500, what BG just said, it's not like when you get home, it's just as simple as just hit power and play. So there's more to it. That may be something that individual would like to do. But again, to be able to go to the store, Donnie, plunk down $500 right now, and you have games that are playing quite well. They're dynamic 4K for the most part, and some of them are hitting anywhere from a solid 60 on performance to certain games like Call of Duty and Apex and things that are hitting 120 frames on PS5 and Xbox Series X. It's another thing where BG said, is Microsoft in a case right now where they're predicting the future, but they're way ahead of the curve, and it's something that may come back to bite them.
To be honest, I don't think they're trying to get ahead of the curve. I think they've already tried that. Like, this information isn't new. Like, the information we've seen about Gen Z, because I saw that Matt from Circana released a graph showing the same thing. Like, this isn't wrong information. You know, marketing's there for a reason. But when you speak about, like, £500 console, I don't think it's about the money. And I don't think Gen Z kids are bothered about 4K 60. I don't think that's a driver for them. And if you look at the price of the Series S, I firmly believe that was in there to combat this Gen Z thing. And they thought, maybe it is a price point. Maybe that is the problem. Kids aren't getting, £500 consoles anymore. Let's make one at $250, and let's try and get ahead of the curve now. So this was now, you're kind of going back 5 years ago when they were having that discussion. I don't think this is new. This is now the culmination of getting to this point going, this didn't work. Our plan didn't work. Because for me, it's not about the price.
Yeah, Mooch, if I could chime in here real quick.
Go ahead, Z.
I think one of the key things I've looked at about this situation is I think Xbox is not trying to get ahead of the curve. I think they're trying to make a new road. And what I mean by that is Microsoft is a software company. They're very good at delivering software everywhere. And I think it would be foolish, at least for me, to assume that they think they can win in some type of hardware competition, whether it be on a handheld or whatever. So I think they're trying to make that new road of saying, hey, the Gen Z, X, or whatever generation it is, they want to play it everywhere, and they want to capitalize on that because that's more potential purchases of games that they can get. So I don't necessarily think they're trying to get ahead of the curve. I think they're trying to start a new road. They're trying to open up their own new interstate, and then utilize what we growing up saw as competition between PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo and Xbox. They're saying, hey, we're going to go over on this road and try to capitalize as many purchases as we can everywhere, just like we do with our software.
Well, what you said makes a lot of sense, and that actually holds water. We had shout out to the great B Money. B Money was on the show. B Money's on BRAP quite often, and B was saying, and I'm not quoting him, but I'm paraphrasing. But he said, let's look at what we're dealing with here. Sony's a hardware company. Microsoft cares about where their software lands, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it almost seems like mixed messaging sometimes, right, BRAP? We hear this, and I say you even spend more time podcasting with B Money than I do, but B's made some great points on BRAP. He's made a few on CrossFire, where that's fine, but it seems like the messaging, right? Everything this beginning, this was only 2.5, 3 years ago, guys, right? 12 teraflops, it eats monsters for breakfast, and it's like this and that. It's like the console's such a big deal, because I agree with Seeds. Like that's the thing. I have no problem with Xbox becoming this massive third-party publisher and being dominant. Xbox is not going anywhere. They may be going somewhere as far as the platform, but they are going to be one of the biggest third-party publishers out there. Brap, what do you think when you hear about this?
The Gen Z thing's kind of interesting. A lot of the things, and I can kind of, let me start with this first. I can see the vision that Phil's trying to put together here, like this idea of having this device that gives you access to everything, right? Much like your smartphone, right? Where your smartphone, there's no walls per se. I mean, either it's you have all your apps on there. You can game, you can do all these things, and I think that's the direction he's trying to push. But to an extent, though, those things kind of already exist too. Like you on your phone. I mean, you have the Xbox app. You can actually game via xCloud. You can play video games using Google Play, or those kinds of type of video games. Apple Arcade. I mean, so those and there's obviously the cloud option with things like NVIDIA's GeForce Experience. We know about Stadia, that didn't work out, but they are options. There are ways for people to engage in video games outside of consoles. So those things aren't really new per se. They're here. But the interesting thing with Gen Z is that I think the biggest thing that Phil isn't sharing, and this is just based on my own research, is that it's really for them about the kind of content they're engaging with or in. They're going to be motivated by games that have more social hooks. So if you think like Fortnite would be the perfect example of that. These games that kind of had this metaverse element to them. Like, again, Fortnite would be the perfect example. Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 6. So I think that's the biggest thing. And there's like, I think we talked about it. BG just mentioned it, like the age group for Gen Z that goes up to age 27. And I've seen some surveys out there, some data where Gen Z and millennials play, but they clearly play video games, but 80% of those are doing so on video game consoles still. So
okay, yeah,
that to me seems a little counterintuitive, or just kind of counters a little bit what Phil's saying. But it just, like no one. For me, it's just hard to predict because I'm Gen X, right? So much like my parents who thought the music that I listened to was terrible, I'm probably like the old man, like but Brap, I'm like that old man now, right?
Brap, let me defend you. Let me defend you in our age group, okay? No matter which gen you are in statistics, here's the thing: the PS5 right now is trending right behind the PS4 globally. So what I'm saying, and that's with a pandemic, and the first year and a half you couldn't find a PS5. So the point that you're a numbers person, and guys in the chat, you guys are all numbers people. Your ears to the ground. My point is that I see what Phil's saying, and I'm not saying his data is incorrect. I'm not. But what about the other side of the aisle? But has this data that's showing consoles, the Switch? There's 130 million guys. You throw me the number in chat. 130 million Switches out there. You think when Switch 2 comes out, people are gonna go, nah, I'm Gen Z, not doing it. Switch 2 is gonna be huge.
I don't think that's gonna be the case, Mooch. And none of us can say 100% sure, like if Gen Z is gonna continue to buy consoles or not. We'll see. But I think what Phil's doing is he's trying to apply this to their strategy and. Not trying to play. This is going to be their strategy, but he's applying this issue, this generational pivot to what's happening today. And so I forget who said it here on the panel, but they're kind of they may be a little bit ahead of the game because today, as it stands, and this is the part that I see a lot of the Xbox centric podcasts discuss quite a bit. More the hardcore Xbox fans on social media, they say this. Well, the console market isn't growing. Well, no, I mean, the console market is a mature market. Like, no one's disputing that. But the revenue numbers are growing. So basically, there's still money that's being made in the console market. The problem that Xbox is having, and this is where I don't agree with Phil, he's trying to apply Microsoft's issues, Xbox's issues in the console space to the entire industry. Like, Nintendo's not having Xbox problems. Sony's not having Xbox problems. Those two platform owners are making money in off the console market. The issue is that there aren't a lot of new customers coming into the console market because it's a mature market, which makes it even harder for Xbox to grab market share in the console space because they're not going to. Phil said it. We're not going to convince people. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he's like, we're not going to out console Sony. We're not going to out console Nintendo. So what he's saying is, look, like we've tried. The market isn't growing enough where we could get more people to maybe put eyes into our console, the Xbox hardware, the Xbox console, and we can't get people to switch over from PlayStation, Nintendo to buy Xbox. And so at the end of the day, they need to pivot, and this is their pivot. He's trying to figure out, is there a way for us to get ahead of a new generation of consumers or different of consumers that may have different buying habits? Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But I think someone, like I said, someone on the panel said this, like they may be too early to the dance with doing this.
So let me ask you. So now, Brep, you kind of set the volleyball up. I'm going to go back to BG as we welcome the great creative Kofi. Kofi, we'll get to you in 1 second. Kofi, welcome to the show. But BG, I want to ask you a question because Brep really did set up a volleyball right there. I got to spike it down. He says, but this is their pivot. Maybe that's a pivot they have to do. But BG, I thought one of the big pivots before was going to be Game Pass, right? We're no longer saying you need to spend $70 a game. The option's there, but you have Game Pass. And Game Pass, we said for a long time on this show, and a lot of other shows said this too, that Game Pass was going to be what Xbox's brand would be known as. So this is almost like two pivots. And I'm going to go ahead and say this to you. We're looking at Xbox game. Phil had mentioned, Xbox, what is it there? Pardon me, I'm looking at my notes real quick. The Epic Game Store and Steam, possibly one. They're looking into maybe having that on the Xbox. It's pivot after pivot after pivot. So BG, when you hear what Brap said, and Brap made a good case, do you think at the end? How many times can you change your business stance? And here we are in the same generation, Game Pass, and then we're doing, we're going to pivot to a mobile, and then we're going to pivot to, having Steam and Epic on Xbox. We said this with Tim Dog last week. What is Xbox right now? If I asked you in your ears to the ground, everybody listening, what is Xbox's identity right now?
I mean, it does seem like they're constantly in flux and kind of ever changing. When it seemed like they were finally kind of settling down, and you could like kind of tell what they were, with the type of games that they were going to make, with the acquisitions, with Bethesda and Activision. It was a lot of different things, but you could kind of see, okay, this is what they are going to be. And if those games give them an identity for you, then that's their identity. But it is hard to say for me exactly what their identity and their brand is, because it doesn't seem like they're actually like dominating in any one thing. Maybe jack of all trades, master of none type thing, and just kind of trying everything, the shotgun approach. I don't, because we're in uncharted territory when it comes to the route that Xbox is going, with the putting games on other platforms and just want to be this ubiquitous brand, and Xbox is everywhere a screen is, and just the whole rhetoric that they've been saying for years. And I feel like they've been saying it for like very long, but they still haven't been able to like really make that happen. I still don't feel like an Xbox is every screen, or like it's on every platform. You know what I'm saying? Like it still doesn't feel like that. It just feels like something they keep saying, and they keep trying to like you use devices and use strategies to kind of Trojan horse the Xbox into everything. But I still don't feel the impact of that. I still, it wasn't like I'm thinking of, didn't they have something where like with every Samsung TV, like there was an Xbox app? I don't even know if that happened or.
They had an exclusive deal for a while for Samsung TVs. We had that over here as well. And to be honest with you, the every screen's an Xbox is a great marketing campaign, isn't it? It sounds superb, and it caters for so many people that aren't quote unquote hardcore gamers, i.e. maybe that Gen Z area we speak about, that you can literally just turn on your TV and there it is. So I actually think it's great marketing. Whether it ends up, like you said, we've got the scattergun approach going, but marketing-wise, it's a powerful message. Every screen's an Xbox. But the problem for them is, of course, that every screen can be a PlayStation, or every screen can be a Nintendo. And everyone's going to pivot towards that in the future. They've not got exclusivity on every screen being a form of console.
I want to chime in real quick because I'm watching the live chat here. There's a gentleman here, Don Sicario. And this is the issue I have with the community at times. Like in Don's case, he's rattling off everything that Phil Spencer said. He said, like, he's saying Steam is, Steam's like the what do you say? Steam is the
end game.
The end game. Like, how is Steam the end game? Like, this is the part that really frustrates me. It's like, let's take the emotion out of it and the fandom away, right? Take that off the table, Don. Think about this rationally for a second. Who uses Steam? PC gamers. They have their rigs. They have their PC, So what you're telling me, Don, is that all of a sudden, magically speaking, that like by some off chance, PC gamers are going to ditch their PCs.
Yeah, right. That's not happening.
And buy a box that's an Xbox that also has Steam on it. Like, think about that for a second.
Well, we just said,
like,
Brap, BG just said it himself. He's like, the one thing that BG said that I said I can get behind too is the fact that if the next generation of gamers wants to build that PC, because for multiple reasons, they need it for school. Maybe they're doing editing. Maybe they're going to get into YouTube creation, right? So they're like, well, I can do, two birds, one stone. I'll have a gaming PC. But like you said, is Xbox going to fill that gap? I'm not seeing that connection there. I'm not seeing that.
Yeah,
connection.
I mean, like it's to me, it's just like it's playing like fantasy football. Like oh my god, like Steam's there, and now it's Endgame. It's everything's on Steam. Again, it's not that everything's on Steam, Don. Is Steam a feature set of having Steam on a box under a TV? Is that enough to drive consumers to that box? Who uses Steam? Steam is a PC platform. That you're telling me that PC gamers are going to suddenly jump. I'm not saying that no one will buy this, but I'm saying is what you're trying to predict is that somehow people are going to abandon their rigs and suddenly pick up this box and start utilizing Steam and the Xbox app and whatever Microsoft's going to do with this. Apparently, it's going to be a Windows. It's gonna have like a Windows version and then like an Xbox version of a flick of a switch. But yeah, it's just interesting. Like this is what I'm saying. Like people are taking these talking points and they do this every time Phil Spencer speaks.
Every
time. And what ends up happening? They always end up stepping on the rake.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, it's okay.
Jazz, welcome, Jazz and
Put up,
Kofi.
Jazz.
Jazz, I'll just say, I'll let you and Kofi kind of take it from here. But Brett makes a good point. Every time Phil comes out and says something, like we're a month and change away, pardon me, from Hellblade 2. So, and you would think you would see excitement for Hellblade 2 in the Xbox community, and it's like, no, Phil says, oh, we're looking into maybe having Epic and Steam on the box. That's the greatest thing. That's not the greatest thing. I mean, like,
Mooch, you took the words right out of my mouth. There you go. I guess I could drop off. There you go.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Jazz, I swear to God, I didn't know you were going to say that. But I mean, well, elaborate, Jazz. Go ahead. I mean,
no, what I was saying is like, it's about the games, no matter what generation you're looking at, Z, Y, X, Y. Like, the thing is that they're going to go where the games they want to play go or where their friends are playing those games. And you have to make engaging games that people want to play, and they will find where they could be, and they will get that thing. Don't stop calling it a barrier. People will do that. And guess who's buying for Gen Z? Gen X, Gen Y, us. We're buying for them. Like, my son plays on consoles. He also has some PC. He discovered mods and Rocket League. So now he's doing some stuff on PC. But he still plays on a console as well. The thing is where the games are, the gamers will go. And Phil, all these years, has not gotten this through his thick-ass skull that it's just made great games. Shut up about everything else. Stop trying to predict the weather. Just cut it out and make great, engaging games. Don't come out and say, I'm sorry, I thought this was going to be a 60 and 80, but there were internal reviews to 20 points higher. Was sorry. Starfield maintenance, that crap. You've been fixing lighting and shadows. Where's the new content for Starfield? Where's the DLC announcements? What is going on with your games? You got 30 studios. When they put a microphone in your mouth, the first thing should be out of your mouth is about what's going on with the games.
Yeah.
That's what you should be talking about, not Epic Store on a friggin' console. And this is what they do. He just spews out crap to get a reaction as a deflection. I think it's a friggin' deflection because I don't think they're confident in their games. So he just says, Steam on a console, Gen Z data, this, and he just talks out his ass. Nothing's UWP. Remember?
Yeah.
UWP was supposed to make the app once and it works everywhere. Never happened. They dropped it.
Jess,
that's one thing I just wanted to.
Yeah, go ahead, Kofi.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying in terms of the focus on the games. I think we all know that the games are the central piece. But I kind of like to just kind of get a heartbeat of gamers I casually know that may not, listen to every podcast. A friend of mine just bought an Xbox Series X, and of course, I look over at it, I'm like, what made you, jump into the ecosystem? He goes, man, Persona 3 was at no additional cost. And I go, okay, I get that. And then I hear, this RPG is coming out. I don't know. Name another RPG that might be coming out. I'm really excited about that. And I go, okay, so people are gravitating to that, but Microsoft will never advertise that enough. And then when I think, so my best friend, he is Xbox die hard. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's the only thing he believes in. He buys a PlayStation for Final Fantasy VII. That's it. He complains about the same thing, that there's all these titles that Xbox just released on PlayStation, right? But they won't bring any knowledge to that game being available anywhere except for on Twitter, or maybe in small spaces where it doesn't cost them much. And if they're not going to focus any dollars on pushing IPs that they developed in-house, like Hi-Fi Rush, then they're going to try to sell the infrastructure. To what BG was saying, they want people to get excited about infrastructure. Like, look how convenient it is. Like, but nobody fanboys about convenience of architecture. It just doesn't work. So,
and it's not working with the devs either, Kofi. The devs don't want any part of this either. Like, I think half of this stuff is more of like trying to entice devs, and you see more and more developers going, we're not putting our game on Xbox. It's not worth it. Like, it's going to be delayed. It's going to be this. That's what you don't want. And it shows that the developers are not buying what Phil's selling, in the sense that Xbox is everywhere, because what do they offer? This is what I always ask. It's like, what do they offer to developers if you're not in Game Pass? You have to be compromised and put in Game Pass in order to see the benefits of Microsoft everywhere, because you can't just go put it in xCloud. You got to be in Game Pass for xCloud. You can't just go put it on the console and expect people to buy it if they're waiting for it in Game Pass. The thing is that developers need to sell to Game Pass in order to see the benefits that Phil talks about, as about more people everywhere. That's through Game Pass. That's the little stipulation he doesn't say. He doesn't say we have a 25, 30 million install base, the lowest console install base, lower than the previous gen, and you want to put your game on our console. They see that. But then he's like, but wait, we also have PC. Windows 10 store? No thanks. I just put it in Steam. I don't need Windows 10 store. That's the worst experience on PC. When you're talking about Xbox on PC, you're talking about Windows 10 store, which that failed them another pivot when they had to put their stuff on Steam because nobody wanted to buy Windows 10 games.
Right.
And now they lost that. Now xCloud is not its own thing. It's tied into Game Pass Ultimate. Would xCloud by itself have the same faith as Stadia? Who knows? They don't have it as a separate subscription. It's bundled together.
Bundled in.
And what do they do with the cable companies? They bundled in the telephones, and you didn't want it, but they bundled it in anyway.
Yeah,
and that's what xCloud is.
Yeah, we also have landlines and nobody uses them. That's a great point. That's
exactly.
the thing.
Bundle it.
And a lot of people will tell you that did try Stadia, that Stadia actually performed better than the xCloud. Now we can't do it when apples for apples now because Stadia's not here. But like I said, what would be the fate of xCloud if it wasn't bundled in? I tell you right now, we all follow the hardcore gamers. We all follow the people on YouTube that we like to watch either game or discuss gaming. No one's like, hey, tune in next week. Next week's a full 3-hour episode on xCloud. That's not. I mean, like it's not. We don't even see people. They don't even display it as a 30-second tweet. But
Mooch, the last time they talked about xCloud, they said that the PlayStation Cloud is better than the xCloud.
Hey,
that's true.
Well, I think that
Go ahead,
Mooch,
Seeds.
real quick. I want to
to say something, like piggyback on what Jez said. He mentioned the UWP thing, and this goes back to what I said earlier in the conversation, where I see people regurgitating things Phil Spencer said. I mean, and I think I may have said this to you recently, Mooch, but I know I said it with Tim Dog. We had Tim on.
Yep.
A week ago. Like, this is the thing. They regurgitate what Phil says, and it's like, oh, UWP, it's going to be great. And then we see how that worked out. And then it was, oh, wait till, remember this, Mooch, remember the Xbox One. Remember, do they free up more ES RAM? It's going to be even better.
and DX12's coming, yeah.
Yeah, DX12's
take the power from the Kinect. They're going to take the power from Kinect.
And they take the power to Kinect. It's going to get better. And to Jess's point, like, it's about the games. And, like, all this stuff, like, I see people in the chat saying, oh, they're playing chess. It's obvious. No, it's not. They're not playing chess. They are in a position right now where they're trying to figure out how to carve out a different niche in the marketplace because they're unable to compete with PlayStation and Nintendo in the console space. We know that in the PC space, that's dominated by Epic, that's dominated by Steam. It's a different beast. The Windows Store isn't that great. I don't ever use the Windows Store. Even games at times like Halo for a while, Halo on Steam ran better than Halo on Game Pass for quite some time. I don't know if they fixed that. But that's my point. Like, everyone's always like, "Oh, it's the future." This do we spend $500 for the future? Like why do we treat consoles like they're stocks? They're not. And this is where I get frustrated with that community. It's like, guys, you spend $500 on a hardware, piece of hardware, and you're talking about the future. You're not talking about today. You're not talking about today. It's like, where's your ROI?
Yeah, where's the ROI? Seeds, go ahead. I know you want to chime in on this.
Yeah, I think that if anything, Xbox is in a very awkward state. They're like the dude that shows up to a party, pops a Viagra before he goes, and no chicks show up, right? Like you're expecting that to be there. So they're not selling enough consoles for third party to be appeased to say, hey, we want to continue to invest over there. So now they're pivoting over to PC and PlayStation. The cloud platform software and the infrastructure, it's not there yet. That's the world that I work in my regular big boy job, is the technology and electrical industry in the energy field. It's not there yet. So they're in this awkward state of, we can't sell enough consoles to be able to attract third party to come over here. I mean, they're still going to, right? Like, they're still making games, but you are starting to see some of these companies start to look at it a little bit differently. Then you have all this property that you own and all these assets under management, what 30 studios, I'm sure someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong, that at some point you want to make a return off of your investment into these studios. That's why you're seeing them start to charge to play the game early. You're starting to see all these different ways to capitalize on some money. And I just think that they are in this really awkward position right now of not selling enough consoles and not having the cloud infrastructure to be able to push out that software approach that they do with everything that falls under Microsoft's roof. And I think they're going to be stuck there for a while, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna.
No, go ahead, Brap. Go ahead, and I'm gonna have a couple super chats after you're done. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback something Sean Layden said about on What's Up PlayStation podcast. They're talking about cloud. He said, I think to some people's dismay that cloud is even more way off than what people think. But also the interesting thing about Phil's commentary on consoles is that he's actually leveraging consoles, the console market, the current console market. He's leveraging his competitors to grow his business. So what is that? I mean, what does that tell you? Like he's saying one thing about the console space, but then he's bringing more of his first party titles, which Christopher Dring at GameIndustry.biz said he's hearing that there's going to be even more games. There's going to be many more games.
No, it's only 4. Stop. It's only 4.
Well, yeah, it's like 4. It's only 4. Hearing like he said the majority of their games. This is Christopher Dring. He's heard majority of their games are going to go to Xbox or to PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. So Phil, even though Phil's saying, hey, you know what, the console industry, like the console market, there's no growth. He's leveraging that same market that he's saying has no growth to grow his own business. And that's what they're doing.
I know, right?
That's why they're doing this. They are, and I people don't like thinking of Microsoft or Xbox as a third party publisher. They're very much behaving, and I think they're eventually going to pivot to being one of the largest third party publisher in the gaming industry, and they would be happy doing that. If that makes them money, the shareholders, Satya, Amy Hood, who wants her money back, they would be happy doing that, and I think that's the direction they're going. I think this box is kind of a thing they're going to do, kind of like on the side. Kind of like what they do with the Surface tablets. But I think that for them, bringing more software to rival platforms, if it makes them more money, they're going to continue doing it.
Yeah, I got a couple of super chats, and that's a good point, because that's going to bring us to like part B of this before we do switch topics entirely. Mega Cloud says the world works on one premise, give and take. If a deal is only great for one side, then it's doomed to fail. Cough, cough, Game Pass. And Mega, we're going to get into Game Pass in a second, because I really want to hear what the panel has to say, because a lot of things this pivot may impact Game Pass. I'm wondering. Lord Metroid says Switch 2 will sell like bonkers. I guarantee it. Lord Metroid, a big Nintendo fan, by the way. Well, by the way, he is right. Lord Metroid comes like, Nintendo is still the king of handhelds. Good luck. Handheld market is expanding, but we'll see that. And that's another topic as well, Lord Metroid.
Steam and the Switch.
Yes.
That's it. Steam Deck and the Switch.
Craig, the tech guy, goes, this Mass Effect talk. Not quite yet, Craig. Great to see Craig in the chat. Liquid Tada, which, by the way, great name, and I love what he says. He goes, they aren't playing chess. They're playing Hungry Hungry Hippos is what the problem is. Liquid, man. Shout out to Liquid. Great to have him here. Lucifer's back in the chat. He says, Xbox sales tank. Microsoft, hey, let's push DEI to devs who don't want to make games for us anyway. They can't be this dumb. I listen. That's a whole nother conversation. I want to ask you guys a question. But shout out to Luz for the super chat. But here's my thing: Game Pass, right? So we had Tim Dog on last week, and we've been talking about this for weeks leading up to it. I'll go back up to the top again. BG, when it comes down to it, okay, Xbox Game Pass, and I want to read this another article I have here. One second. Here it is. Basically, the gold rush is over. Slay the Spire and Darkest Dungeon devs say that big Game Pass and Epic exclusive deals have dried up for indie devs. So, BG, one of the big things, okay, yes, even with the acquisition of ZeniMax and even with the acquisition of Activision, okay, a lot of games in those families, but it still takes time, right? What did we have in the meantime? You had what was it called there? Was it Outriders? I'm trying to jog my memory here. We had Outriders, right? Then they do have the show in there. That contract may be forever. It may just be a couple more years. We don't know. But they had other games in there, bigger indie games, even Lies of P. But if that starts to dry up, BG, do you feel that part of this pivot, maybe Microsoft stepping a bit? We heard Jez and a few others on the panel say, I'm not seeing, Kofi said it too, I don't see them pushing these great things that Game Pass is really putting forward. A little bit on Twitter, sure, but don't see nearly what I used to see on the traffic on YouTube. Don't see them advertising it as much on Twitter. I follow all their accounts. Don't see it there. BG, do you think that Game Pass may actually be they may be like just taking their foot off the gas a little bit on that? They're going in a different direction now.
So I imagine that when, the early days of Game Pass, what it was is like, they're like, okay, we have this great idea and premise, and we're going to be, very generous, and they're going to go really, really hard, when it comes to getting all the type of games that they can get on Game Pass, indie, AA, and even the AAA that they can manage to get. We know those are the most expensive ones. But if this is true that like these indie developers aren't getting the bag and the offerings and the deals that they were getting initially, it's probably because Xbox realized the ROI really isn't there. And we know the numbers of Xbox Game Pass. Like it virtually damn near hasn't grown in like 2 years, I think it was. And like the little growth that it had, you can contribute that to them folding in games with gold.
Yep.
So the growth hasn't been great. Not only with Game Pass, but just subscription services in general. That's been proven. So yeah, they probably look at the indie games and developers as, hey, we were giving you these big deals before, but Game Pass hasn't grown like we thought it would. So I imagine they would want to be more selective about who they're offering these deals that would actually contribute to Xbox, to Game Pass growing. Because, and this is something that I've said in the past with talking about Game Pass, that a lot of people didn't want to hear, is people care about the AAA games. That's what people really care about in Game Pass. It's a glorified, library. I called it a glorified backlog, and people swore that they no, it's all about the entire library. I'm like, I don't think it is. I don't think that's what. That's a perk. That's an additional perk. But the biggest draw, the biggest eye candy is the day and date AAA games, or even high end AA games that it manages to get. The indie games that you get on Game Pass, those aren't bringing in a bunch of people. I'm sorry, they're not. Even the AA games, you could probably argue aren't bringing in a huge deal of people. I always said if they wanted to actually grow Game Pass, they would have to get at the end of the year, when you look at the top 10, top 30, whatever it is, the top selling games of the year, the biggest blockbuster games that everybody will actually shell out money for, you have to get those to get Game Pass to actually significantly grow.
Yes.
But you can't get those because for any of those AAA developers to agree to put that on Game Pass, you have to pay an exorbitant amount of money to overcompensate for the money that they know they were going to make otherwise, right? Because once again, Game Pass, the ones that just agree to Game Pass like day and date, mostly there's exceptions, are mostly the ones that don't have that much confidence in their game, or like Microsoft can like provide the upfront cost of whatever the development was. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
so you don't see the biggest games of the year on Game Pass. I'm talking about day one. There's a reason for that. So
'Cause they know they're going to sell them, and not they don't.
Exactly.
They know they're going to sell them.
Yeah, and honestly, shout out to Abdel114 in the chat. I hope you heard what BG just said. That's the point I'm trying to make here. He says that you said back in February of 2020, if Game Pass wants to succeed, you need like a Call of Duty, not Ori Will of the Wisps. Now COD is coming to Game Pass, and Game Pass has still failed. You're saying that like I invented Game Pass. I'm telling you right now, it needs more than that. What's happening like BG said, what's happening the other 11 months? What are you getting the next 11 months out of that? Here we are. It's going to be April next week. April. What have you gotten brand new from first party from Microsoft? They've bought half of the publishers out there. What have you gotten, Abdel? What have you gotten? That's the point. And he's got a large list of things. Flight Sim. Oh, come on. I mean, what are we doing? Age of Mythology. I mean, what are
The
we
Marcus Phoenix collection.
The Marcus Phoenix collection.
Oh, they're still talking about that.
Which doesn't
Wow.
exist. Oblivion Remastered.
That's a good title for PlayStation.
So
Catch them
yeah,
up.
so Call of Duty's in there, but where's the rest? And honestly, Starfield didn't do what it was supposed to do.
But Mooch, is Call of Duty in there? Have they said
It's
that
not.
Call of Duty's
It's-
launching in Game Pass this
Yeah,
year? The new one?
They didn't say it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
coming yet. They
The
said
new
that-
one.
They didn't say the new one was coming yet, but I'm sure. Listen, I'm not going to say that it's not.
I'm just
saying-
asking. They
Yeah,
haven't said the new one. They said Call of Duty's, the old ones, plan to be in Game Pass, but did they say the new one day and date?
At that sham of a podcast they made last month when they announced the 4 games, they specifically said that all ABK games are going to Game Pass. They specified that, yes. So everyone took that as next year's Call of Duty will be on Game Pass.
Well, listen, I got news for you.
Oh, okay.
That's certainly how I took it.
No, that,
I mean,
that-
I may be wrong, but
no,
Hey,
it's
man.
fine. It's fine to take it.
I would.
That's fine to take it that way. But in all honesty, what's the holdup? Like, you own them. Just say it.
Look at the disaster that Diablo 4 is. They don't have achievements. They don't have cross saves, and they own them. You have to sign into 2 accounts in order to get that game.
You know, so
You got to sign in. Yeah, they don't have achievements, and they're trying to. And people are going. It's there. This is what I mean when they talk about this vision, this one future all over the place. It's been happening. They've been talking about this for over half a decade about this one universe for all of Xbox. Xbox is everywhere. It's the most fragmented universe I've ever seen. PC Game Pass is different games than console Game Pass. Cloud Game Pass is different than all 3 of them. You have console cloud, cloud console, console, a PC cloud, and it's all over the place. Just like with Dustin Laguerre, he was confused. He's like, I played Death Stranding on Xbox. It's like, no, you didn't. You played it on PC Game Pass because it's not on console Game Pass.
right.
yeah.
It's such a fragmented vision. So it's like, that's what I mean. It's not going to work if they don't sync it all together, and they have control of everything. They control PC, they control console, they control cloud. They can make it all work, but their left hand don't talk to the right hand at that company.
Go ahead, Seeds.
One of the things I've seen in chat a couple times is, hey, can so and so come on to make this bounce? I think what people are misunderstanding is, at least for me, I can only speak for myself. I have had an Xbox and been in the ecosystem of Xbox since, I was in my teenage years. I think what you're hearing from most of us here is not hate, it's frustration.
Yeah.
I took my Xbox. I've had 7 total deployments. I took my Xbox on 4 of them. I ended up getting a black ring of death, sent my Xbox in to have it repaired. A friend of
Black
mine
Ring of
lived in
Death.
Mill-
Oh, Jesus, that's a new one.
The ring of death.
The red ring. Yeah, the red.
the
It was,
red
like, it was a
ring, yeah,
black
sorry.
one. I didn't know there was a black ring.
Yeah, the red ring. And they sent me a new one after a friend of mine sent in a letter. So for me, I lean more towards PlayStation now, but this conversation here isn't about hate on Xbox, at least from where I see it. It's about frustration of we have all these studios that have been purchased by Xbox. Where are the games? You had in what 2023 or in 2022, there were no first party games, unless someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong. And then last year, I reviewed I think three of the Xbox first party games. Redfall was a mess. I didn't personally enjoy portions of Starfield, but at 30 FPS, I just don't want to play 30 FPS games anymore.
Right.
And I reviewed Minecraft. So I think that one of the things that a lot of people miss whenever they critique Xbox and critique Microsoft is it's not that we don't hate, or it's not that we hate them and we don't like them. It's Microsoft. I expect from a company the size of Microsoft, I expect better and I expect more.
Seeds, I'm really glad you took a second to say that, Seeds. And let me be fair, Brap. I'll give you the mic in a second.
Yep.
Abdel says, Mooch, you have to list the other games I said there. By the way, Abdel114, who's in the chat, Abdel, I have 3, and I know a lot of people on the panel are probably going to throw tomatoes at me, but I'm just saying, I have 3 Xbox Series X's in my home. I bet you don't have that. And my point being is that's what Seeds is saying. My point is that we don't. It's not that I don't support Xbox. The thing is that the games. There's 2 things. The games that they've given us thus far have not been to the quality that even some of the publishers they've acquired put out in the past. And he says here, Indiana Jones, Hellblade 2, Black Ops Gulf War, Avowed. Okay, then it was the other games that I mentioned that I think are smaller games or games that most console owners don't really care about. But Indiana Jones doesn't necessarily scream great. Okay, Hellblade 2 looks like fun for me. I'm going to enjoy that. Is that going to be 60 frames on console? Don't know, right? And I mean, let me be honest with you this far. I've been buying Call of Duty since Call of Duty's been Call of Duty. So do you think that this year I'm not going to buy it? I'm still going to buy it. I want to own Call of Duty. That's a game that I like. I love. I play it too much, actually. So I'm good for them. I'm glad that they own it now. But so the point of the matter is, when it comes down to it, is I do support Xbox. I want, and that's what Seeds is saying. It's more frustration, pardon me, than it is actually, it's not anti-Xbox by no means. Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, no, you know what? It goes back to being a consumer first. Like, you own 3 Xboxes, whatever you said, which I forgot the number, but you own you have more than I do. Look, and I agree with what Detective Seed said, and I wanted to just talk about my own history with Xbox. Like, for those who don't know, I was an Xbox Live beta tester.
Get out of here! No way.
Yes, all right. It's shocking, I know. But one of the reasons that got me excited about Microsoft entering the console space 20 plus years ago, one, Sega had just exited the space, but I knew if anyone could compete with Sony, Nintendo, given the amount of financial resources, it was Microsoft. And there's a game, many of you know, called Halo that put them on the map. One game. Okay? So when we're talking about like them not having games per se, a lot of our frustration is just because a lot of us have experiences with Microsoft that go 20 years. We played games like Halo. We got games like Ninja Gaiden. We got games like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. We got games like The Elder Scrolls Morrowind. We got games like Atoji, which eventually went multiplat. Splinter Cell was a timed exclusive on the Xbox. We had that. We had Jet Set Radio Future. We had these really good games. We had games that were in the conversation, the zeitgeist. That's, at least to me, that's how I'm looking at them. And considering the amount of money and resources that they have as an organization, there's no reason why they shouldn't be competing on par with the kind of quality and putting out games that are in the conversation for Game of the Year. Like, people are like, look at, you have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth up on the screen now. That game is going to be in conversation for Game of the Year.
Yeah.
I understand it's not a first party, but regardless of that fact, it is still a console exclusive to PlayStation 5. Those things matter. Those things drive consumers to buy into the brand.
That's all they care about at the end of the day. That's what drives people to the purchase, Brap. We talk right. We talk about a little bit more emotion than sometimes just how we buy other consumer goods. Right? It's no different.
Yeah, it's not hate. It is just this feeling of disappointment based on how they used to put out content, and based on our own previous experiences with the Xbox 360, which was an amazing console. So that's I think that it's not this idea that it's hate, which is ridiculous. Like it's like, so you can't be a consumer. You can't articulate your disappointment with a consumer product because it's hate. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I do agree with that. Shout out to the great Jimmy Harrison. He says, best damn show listen to while I'm cooking out. Much love, guys. Jimmy, much love right back at you. The great Jimmy Harrison, everybody. That's a very, very good point. I do want to kind of just switch over a bit here. I have a couple of things. The Xbox handheld. And then after we get done with this, I do want to talk about a few other topics that happened this week. But I guess, and again, I always go back to the top of the lineup again. BG, I what do they say? Make the math here. Make it work out for us. If Xbox is seemingly having one of their worst generations in console sales, the reason I have these as topics is it baffled my mind when I was reading the headlines, BG, because we know the situation. The numbers are out there. They're not out there by Microsoft, but they're also not disputing them. Microsoft Series X and S right now are trending behind the Xbox One, and at the time, the Xbox One was their worst generation. And when you hear, like, I think Sarah Bond came out and said, hey, we got some great hardware, some new technology that's going to be really awesome. Maybe it will be great, and I'm hoping it changes things, right? But BG, if people aren't buying the S, that's $299, sometimes $249. We've seen it lower in the holidays. And then they're not buying, we've seen the Xbox Series X at $400, $450, $500. Why is it people would all of a sudden, and the headlines and the media are running with it, well, Xbox gets a handheld, bang! That's the answer, BG. That's clearly the answer. So if you're not going to buy a Series S for $299 respectively, or cheaper in the holidays, what is encouraging? Where are we getting this boost of motivation for a handheld unit that Phil has seemingly inquired they're looking into?
Yeah, I think the drive to get into the handheld space is for engagement. I think it's the same thing for PlayStation also. They don't. It doesn't seem like they would make actual handheld content specifically for the handheld. I don't think that PlayStation or Xbox would do that. It would work. It would work. Essentially, you're just playing the native versions of the games you're playing on your console, right? You're just playing it directly on the handheld itself. And I think they obviously care about engagement very much. Yeah. And like with the Portal, PlayStation has said that the purpose of it was to just get people to play more. It wasn't necessarily to make money, even though it's been selling very well. I'm sure they can see the numbers and the metrics behind the scenes that people are playing more games simply because they have a handheld that they can play the same games that they're playing on their console when they're away from their console. So more people playing more games does lead to people spending more money, obviously, because they're moving on from games a little bit faster. So I think that's what it's all about for them, is creating this whole just creating this whole ecosystem. And of course, there is a lot of competition out there with, like the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck, and there's a bunch of other ones like them now. But I think people have been showing that even with that competition, they are also down to buy a device that's made by one of the big three. That's made directly for the ecosystem Absolutely. That they're already in. So yeah, I think that's their plan. I think guess. As far as the new Xbox, like what Sarah Bond was talking about, like I feel like mentioning that was just very odd and strange. We're the next hottest, most powerful Xbox. I feel like that was like a little distraction, a little like red herring. It's like we have bad news right now. We have it's kind of like a distraction from. It's like what PlayStation does when PlayStation, like when they deliver bad news. They also tend to announce something good at the time to like kind of soften the blow. And I feel like unless a lot of the time what Microsoft does is like when things are going bad, they announce a new piece of hardware is coming and it's going to be the most powerful thing ever. When every new console is technically going to be the most powerful thing ever, and it's that whole thing was just so pointless and strange for her to announce at that time. Like yeah.
No, I do too. I thought it was definitely like a deflection at the point because that podcast was really it was kind of grim. You know what I mean? It just wasn't upbeat, and I thought that was one of the only shining parts. It's like, hey, look, we're gonna have some new hardware, so console fans, don't worry, we've got you covered. And we've heard rumors about it being like a hybrid. Pardon me, which could be, kind of like Nintendo Switch, where it's both. Kofi, you hear what BG's saying, and I do have to agree with him. That's one thing where the handheld makes sense for Xbox if they're doing this whole xCloud and play anywhere, like engagement's the number. But Kofi, your ears to the ground, and the Japanese market is big on the Switch, and that's because it's on the go. And a lot of different PlayStation's looking at this, Xbox is looking at this. And they're seeing that this is very, very big, not only in the Japanese market, but it's big over here. Kofi, do you think that the handheld, and by the way, Donnie, I want to get to Donnie too. I want to hear what Donnie has to say after this, and I want to hear what Donnie has to say about Game Pass as well. But Kofi, what do you think? Is that something that you think really could propel Microsoft upwards, is having a handheld? I just feel like with the ROG Ally and with the Steam Deck out there already, and then there's the other two brands that also have they're Windows-based.
Legion Go, that's what I have.
Right, yeah, Jez, Windows-based console gaming on the go. It just seems like there's a bit of saturation. Now, Xbox doesn't care if you're playing Game Pass on the ROG Ally or the one Jez just mentioned or their
Legion
device,
Go.
But we will also see slower sales in that handheld device because you could play these games natively on others. Kofi, do you think that makes a difference? And how much do you think that the other markets have dictated this? Kofi may have stepped out for a sandwich. Jez?
Yeah, well, I'll say, the Legion Go, I have the Legion Go, a Steam Deck, the Portal, a Switch. So I see, it would, again, it comes down to the games. If there's games that you want to play and you want to play on the go, like I can tell you right now, the Portal for me has taken over for the Legion because I want to play. I have Helldivers, so I just keep playing Helldivers too. And that's like any single time I want to play, I just want to get back to that game. If I can't get to my room to play, I'm hanging out on the couch and the kids are there and stuff, I can at least get some gaming in. And that's where I find it's better. But it's the game that draws you. If you have games that you really like, I could wait for it, or I don't then are you really want to take that on the go with you?
Right.
It comes down to the content. So if they could offer compelling content, I think it will just help their console, but also help the handheld. The issue with the handheld is the things that you're saying. Like, would you buy? Like, I feel that what they would do is take the Xbox app and turn the Xbox app into big screen mode, and then you could take your Legion Go, your Asus Ally, and they basically turn into Xbox interfaces. Because that's the biggest problem with the Windows on a small device, is that it's Windows. I'm turning down Office 365 subscriptions when I boot up my gaming machine, my little gaming Legion Go. It boots up and it's like, oh, Teams is launched. I'm like, oh, shut that down. I was like, do you want to join Office 365? I'm like, no, this is a gaming, but it's a computer. So it doesn't know that it's in that small form factor and it's given there. Now, Asus and Legion both do like these apps that kind of overlay that, but still, it's nice to play around with them. But when you click on them, you go to Epic Store, you're using a mouse. There is no controller interface for an Epic Store. Steam has Big Picture, which is incredible. Steam Deck gives you the best type of console experience for a PC. Like, that is the best thing. Boot it up, no problems. It's all software and hardware mixing together perfectly. Go. It's a fragmented piece on Asus and Legion. You're waiting for updates and BIOS updates to utilize battery and GPUs and all that stuff. It's a hassle. If they can make something simple, that's fine. But you're looking at a device that's going to be probably around the price of the same thing of their consoles, and then you got the question of battery life. Is battery life going to be better when you're playing their games on there? Because that's the biggest problem I have with the Legion Go, is that, you boot it up, you want to play Alan Wake on it, you want to play something along those lines, even like Rocket League and stuff. You could get about 4 games in, and then you watch your thing, it's at 20%.
Yeah.
It's going into battery saving mode.
That is a
So-
problem. That's a problem.
And you're constantly changing frame rate, you're changing resolution to get the best battery life and playable game and better frames. And you know, that's a challenge that you have on small devices because battery technology still is not ideal for that. Even ask a gaming laptop users. Like, it's this constant struggle of utilizing that. And if they use Intel, forget about battery life. They gotta forget about that. They use an Intel chipset. You're done with that, but I don't think they can because it has to be compatible with the console. So again, it's the games. It's the games. Like and I don't know. Again, I just feel that they're struggling so much in hardware right now. I don't think it's the time for them to launch even more hardware and to support something.
Yeah.
Because now. Yeah. Is it going to be compatible, or is it going to be, we got to wait for the devs to update their games to work on our Xbox handheld? All right, and now they have new announcements every month. This game is compatible with your Xbox S handheld, and this one, and we're doing that again. And it's just like, I don't know. Their implementation has been very poor with everything. They have these ideas and these rumors and all this other stuff, but the implementation has been horrible, and it never works. And then they pivot again.
Well, see, I'm bravo to you, Jez. I know that on your channel, every time you get any type of new tech, you're always showing it off. You do an unboxing, and then you actually put it up, the whole nine. Myself personally, I had the ROG Ally, and when I saw what was going to go into having to keep that thing updated and this and that and all the other things, I ended up I sold the ROG Ally, and I just used the Steam Deck. Honestly, the Steam Deck is a console in your hands.
It's the best.
Same thing with battery life and stuff. It really is. So when Steam Deck 2 comes out, if you guys are like, well, Mooch, I want to get into that. Outside, the PlayStation Portal is a different device. That's an accessory to your PS5. But as far as a standalone handheld, I would totally recommend the Steam Deck. Donnie, I want to go to you though. Don, what do you think, Don? I kind of jumped over you too. I apologize on what you think of the outcome and future of Game Pass, and then also the Xbox handheld before we switch subjects to what the great Danelle Brown is already getting to.
Sure. In terms of Game Pass, I think BG made some great points. If we think back to the FTC case last year, we saw that the figures that they need to spend to bring some of these games onto the platform is astronomical, and even especially games that are going to sell 5, 6, 10 million copies. And we already know that they're 15 million subscribers behind their target for this time, or close enough. And by the end of this year, I think it is, they wanted to have 50 million, wasn't it? So we see that it's stagnating. So therefore, where is the incentive to go and spend huge sums of money? And I always figured that by the time they got their ducks in a row and they have their own studios, including ABK, bringing content over, why would they pay for someone else's game anyway? I always saw this as the end game. People always sold Game Pass to me that, it's great because they support devs, and look at all these games they're bringing over. I thought, that's not lasting forever. You know?
Right.
Because when you have if you have your own, why would you give someone else money when you have your own content? Because gaming time is finite. We would all love to game 20 hours a day, but we can't.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, completely agree. What do you think about that?
And
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Sorry.
I want you to finish the second part of your thought, Donnie.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say there regarding the handheld. To be honest with you, that the handheld thing, the portal is showing that people with PlayStations do want to play handheld. The data is there. The sales are good. The hours people are playing. People I know that have it love it. So we are seeing that. But I think to myself, we know what happened with Vita. We understand that this device would have to be some sort of native machine, almost like a portable PlayStation 4 Pro-ish, or an Xbox's version would have to be some sort of, Xbox One, so that you're actually getting a native version. But I then think, well, at that point then, the games that are getting made are then going to have an old version built in almost to make this thing run. It just seems like we keep talking about trying to reduce dev time, dev costs, and here we are trying to throw in another version of a game that's like Steam Deck verified. It's going to be PlayStation Portable verified. It's going to be So at what point does it start getting out of control again? We're trying to do the opposite. So I don't know. And again, the big question is that if you can't sell Series S's at £200, how are you going to shift a handheld at 300, 400, 500?
Exactly. And you make a good point about that Steam Deck Verify. Like, that's the kind of, even games that could run on there, like Steam actually curates them to say if they're going to run well on a Steam Deck, which is another kind of a way of, if you want a console on the go, the Steam Deck is there. But I agree. I love my Legion Go, but it definitely takes some knowledge of PC and to get things going on that thing. But it's completely versatile. And if you like a jack of all trades, like a jackknife of portable gaming, those the Asus ate up my memory card. That they could keep that crap. The Legion Go is a well built machine, but it's huge. And pause on that one. And the removable controllers really add a cool element to it, because you could hook that up to the TV and then sit back and use those controllers. It's pretty cool. Like as that Switch.
You have to use the controllers the same way we use the Switch controllers, right?
Yeah, exactly, same way. And I 3D printed a controller clip for them, so like I could use it like a regular controller. They don't have one yet, which I'm surprised.
I was just gonna say, because without having that centerpiece that like Switch has. Like I've tried playing a Switch with the controllers, like just one in the left hand, one in the right hand, and I feel like I'm jumping out of an airplane without a parachute.
It is a little weird that you put it on the side. But the other cool thing that nobody really uses, but if you're a real like hardcore PC gamer and you still want mouse control, that right controller turns vertical, sits in a little dock that comes with it, and you could use that as almost like as a joystick, as a mouse, a 3D mouse. Which is pretty incredible, because it has an infrared sensor at the bottom of that controller, and you could use a keyboard, and you could basically have a mouse, or you can use the analog stick. Like the versatility of that thing was really incredible on that. But again, it depends, like how they're going to market this, how they're going to do this. But you're right, if they're not selling the consoles at this thing, how are they going to introduce more hardware? And like, how's that like? It's about the games. It's about the games, and they gotta play. And the one thing I just want to bring up about that Game Pass strategy, I think now that Microsoft has so many studios and so much stuff going on, they are really not looking to bring in more content to Game Pass. They're kind of like, hey, we got to get our stuff going. Like, we don't need the startups anymore, because we have purchased so much stuff. That's the reason why we purchased it, is to funnel into Game Pass. So let's go. And I'm sure that's an easier cost for them, because if you remember, those numbers leaked, and how much they paid for even a Star Wars Lego was like $5 million or something to get it in Game Pass, because they got to pay the off sales. And it's hard for them to do that, because their install base is smaller than the other install bases. So if they're going to pull something away from somebody else, or they're going to get something, they got to kind of compromise that stuff in payments, and that costs a lot of money. That's why they probably bought all these publishers, because they need a publishing house to funnel their services, because shopping around and saying here's $1 million, here's $2 million, it's $5 million, and you don't get any return on investments on those.
Well, it's also to keep feeding the beast that is Game Pass. They have to have that content.
But they still got to get the games coming out. They still are so slow.
Well, that's it. It still feels
that
really slow.
That game by game basis seems exxing.
And
Kofi,
before I switch subjects, Kofi, I was going to you earlier. I wanted to ask you a question here about the handheld unit, the rumor, or however you want to kind of forecast it. The handhelds are very big in the Japanese market, and you know that better than anybody on the panel. BG said it's engagement, which I think everybody agrees with. That's true. Microsoft right now's number one thing is engagement numbers. Get those numbers as high as possible. And when you can take things on the go, that means you're playing more xCloud. You're playing more games on the go. That's what they've been saying. They're mobile. Maybe, listen, it's much, much more easy to play a game. I'm not playing Candy Crush. I'm not playing Candy Crush at all. But I don't want to play Candy Crush on a 75-inch OLED, right? But on a handheld, why not? So they really get the whole ecosystem and on the go, and they see the success of that with the Switch, starting with the Switch, and then what's going on with the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, etc. So what do you think when it comes down to it, Kofi? Do you think that this is something that they're looking to do?
I love the idea of Microsoft saying, hey, we could try to approach some of the Japanese devs that don't have an opportunity to make something unique and bring it to a Japanese market, bring it to a market maybe that has not traditionally been successful for them. But I don't know if their lack of experience and tenure in the hardware space is going to help that at all. I guess what I mean by that is, yes, they've made hardware and they've deployed plenty of hardware things over the years, but they all die. I think of Zune. I think of the Windows Phone. I think the Surface has survived, and I think actually Surface is decent. But when I think of them paying somebody to make hardware that they're going to be losing money on, I'm going to assume. I don't know if they love that space. I feel like their overall, how would you say? I just don't feel like they employ anybody who can lead that right now. And they just love the idea of looking at what's already out there and deploying their software and all of their architecture on that instead. But I think I would love the idea, because there are still many Japanese. I mean, I'm personally thinking if Xbox wants to compete in the Japanese space and give Japanese developers that don't have many opportunities, with some extra funding, that would be great. I often think so. There's a game that's coming out in July in Japan, and this October. I'm going to butcher the name, but the character designer is very well known on for developing characters for Final Fantasy titles. I think it's called Renatus.
Okay.
And Renatus is being developed by Furyu, right? Furyu is notorious for consistently releasing new IP games that they just don't nail the execution. And I feel like they have all these creative ideas, but they never have the funding to see execution done well. Literally in the last 7 years, they've done tons of games like I think it was called. Oh my gosh, it's skipping my brain. Forgive me. But they've just done so many different titles. And with somebody like Microsoft who needs to take a risk and needs to give titles a little more oomph, I think, in terms of specifically in the Japanese market, this is their chance. But they won't do that. Yeah. I don't think they'll do that at all. So.
No, that's an outstanding point. And I have now, so this is Abdel asked the question, and I know I have my answer, but I'm going to hold my answer to the end. Seeds, I'm going to go to you with this question. And he says, I have an honest question for the panel. He says, what do you all prefer? Microsoft gets Lies of P as a timed exclusive full priced, or gets Lies of P multi-platform but day one Game Pass? Seeds, what do you think when? And I like the way that question's poised. I know I have my answer, but Seeds, what do you think?
I'll pay for it. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not even a fan of timed exclusives or any of that. I'm a consumer. Let me play it. Just give me the game and let me play it. So I don't really care. I mean, but I also, to be fair to that question, I have 3 Xboxes in my home and I have 3 PS5s in my home.
Yep.
And so, when you have kids, they all want their own stuff. I'm in a place in life where I can afford to purchase games. But I also understand where the question comes from of, would you rather have it on Game Pass? Because I do like having Game Pass in my house so that I don't have to buy, multiple copies of a game so my kids aren't fighting over who gets to play what. And so, but for me personally, I'd rather just pay for the game and support the developers. That's me personally. I'm not ever going to sit here and say Game Pass is a bad thing, because I have enjoyed the fruits of playing a lot of games that have come to Game Pass.
Yep.
But for me personally, I'd rather just I'm in a position where I can just buy the game.
Yeah, I mean I'm kind of in the exact same boat as you. Does anybody else want to answer that? I mean, I do think that's a good question. Myself personally, I would prefer to own it. And to answer your question, Abdel, in a different sense, let's use Lies of P for example, right? So Lies of P is, let's say it's a timed exclusive, and I want to play that. I'm buying that game on Xbox. I'm not waiting for PlayStation to get it. It's the same reason that Final Fantasy series it works for me. Like, people go, oh, I want to play Final Fantasy. So if I'm going to want to play Final Fantasy, I have to buy a PlayStation. If I wanted to play Lies of P, you see, it brings the need for that to the forefront. And that's the one thing I think that Game Pass loses a bit, because like I said, the other thing is like when I know this sounds crazy, this is hard to put into words, but BG, you've said this on the show before too, and maybe you could say it better than me, but when I buy a game, like, I'm going to play it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you won't beat it, maybe you won't platinum it, but I'm going to play the hell out of it. Now, I bought Starfield, for example. I bought it on Steam because I didn't want to play it at 30 FPS. So I bought it on Steam, and I played 30, 35 hours. Like, I didn't finish it because I didn't really care for it, but I played it. Like, when I play it on Game Pass, sometimes it's just like, it's just there. And what do people say all the time? Oh, it's on Game Pass, I'll get to it. Our backlogs are already 150 games deep. There's new games coming out every 3 weeks. So when are you going to get to it? I mean, that's my problem.
There's some sort of habit around having that barrier of entry being $50, $60, $70, or even $40, like, Helldivers. But when it's just at no additional cost, or that $14 or $15 or $16 a month, it just becomes a little bit too much to look at 300 games and be like, I'm not necessarily excited. I mean, for the majority of scenarios, I often to be honest, I was bringing up before that various friends of mine have brought up that they got Game Pass and an Xbox for Persona 3, the remake, Reload. I was like, wow, there is something here for some titles to actually get people excited, and it's just interesting that Xbox won't capitalize on that from an internal development perspective. Really get a developer and say, let's commit to a 10-year cycle. Have them make some trilogy or reinvent some, old IPs and something like this. So I think
this is the thing. Liza P was an incredible get for them. I think the Ninja Turtles game was an incredible get. Persona 3 was an incredible get for them. But what is the distance of releases between those games? Like, you can highlight the great things of Game Pass, and that's where it shows its value. When there's great games that are in the service, that's like, oh, wow, I was going to buy that. Oh, I'm interested in that, and it shows up in Game Pass. The problem is that it has not been as consistent as it should be. And that's where the challenge is like, do you stay subscribed or you jump on when something's there and jump off? That's kind of how I use Game Pass. If there's something I'm interested in, I jump on and play it. Like that. But the thing is I'm not gonna say it's a bad service. My always issue with the Game Pass was the first party quality. Will that suffer being launched in a subscription service? And I think we've seen the results of that far, with Halo and a bunch of other games where they're not ready for prime time and they just get put in there. Also, you also see the marketing, the excitement, getting you enticed to buy the game is very subdued when it's going into Game Pass. They changed their whole tune when they're putting that stuff on PlayStation. Man, promotions, interviews with the Rad devs talking about how excited they are, content updates coming out ready for launch for the PS5. It was a totally different thing when you're selling the game to somebody, but when it was in Game Pass, it's like, put it out with 3 missions. We'll figure it out later.
A lot of people, Jez, a lot of people don't understand this. Shout out to, I think it's NYX. He says here in the chat, he says, that's why I gave up on Game Pass. It made my backlog even bigger. I'd rather just buy games and play them at my own pace. That's the thing when it comes down to it. You know what I mean? Shout out to Kratos. Shout out to Blaze.
Yeah, I'm even seeing that with the PlayStation one. Like, they're just throwing games in there, and I'm like, I can't even use this stuff.
That's why, I asked that. I asked that question. I got a lot of responses. By the way, shout out to everybody in the community. I appreciate all the responses and the in-depth answers. I asked, is that Immortals game that's going into PS Plus? Is that a good game? I asked because I saw a lot of mixed. Not mixed reviews. Forget about meta for a second. I saw gamers' mixed opinions on that game. Is this a game that I want to take a sidestep and play a little bit? And I got a really good answer from the community. A lot of people responded to that. I was amazed. But like you said, this doesn't just pertain to Game Pass. This is for PS Plus as well. Like, they throw games in there. I don't necessarily just stop playing. I'm not stopping Helldivers 2. I'm not stopping Final Fantasy. And I'm not stopping my run through Elden Ring before the DLC comes to go play Immortals probably. You know what I mean? So it's not just a bash on Game Pass. It's just, why do I want to pay that $16.99 a month? Which I firmly believe as we progress through 24 into 25 at some point, that's going to go up again, probably to almost $19.99.
And I think there's some,
go ahead.
Real quick, there's like this, I don't want to say stigma, I guess, like negativity around saying I would support the devs. The question was, if it's a timed exclusive and I have to pay for it, or wait, so is that timed exclusive, let's say I can get a hold of it 4 months before it goes on to Game Pass, I'm going to pay for it. Saying that you are going to pay for a game and support a developer, that's not a bad thing to say.
Well, you heard what Sean Layden said, buy your games.
Buy your games.
Well, guess what? If we don't purchase games, I don't know if some of the guys in chat, not to offend you guys, I don't know if you know how business works. If businesses do not have functioning revenue streams coming in, those developers, they don't stay in business very long. They need money to come in order to continue to make games that you like. I am all for people doing what's best for their bank account, what's best for their families and stuff like that. So if you want to wait and you want to play it on Game Pass because you don't want to spend the money, that's totally cool. But don't force that on everyone else, and don't shove it down their throat if they say, hey, look, I'm willing to support the devs with my pocketbook. It's my own money, and I'm willing to do that. That's none of your damn business if I do that. It is what it is.
And like to piggyback on that, I think people like to lean on the fact that Microsoft is a multi-trillion-dollar company or whatever their overall net worth is, and it has
business all of a sudden.
They don't want to go in the negative just in the idea of games being available everywhere. So,
And that was something, Kofi, that he pointed out in that interview, which I think is kind of telling, where he's just like, it's a business. We got to do what's best for business. Like, you almost sound like, the rest like, we got to do what's best for business. Like, so and in that interview, it's kind of like, you're not going to, and he even said it, you're not going to like the decisions that we're making, but we got to, Xbox is a business, and I got to make sure it stays as a business. And that's why what he's doing is business decisions. And, I think that Game Pass strategy, I think backfired a little bit. I think also, too, their productivity, the studios they bought in 2018 have not generated many games for them to put into that service. And they were supposed to be smaller games to fill between the big ones. And they wound up, Compulsion Games wound up hanging out for making games for that game for 6 years, since 2018. So they really didn't generate the productivity. And Booty said that, these were productivity purchases, and they bill on productivity. They weren't producing. But, the point is that it's a business. And when you talk about, buying subscriptions, and we even have developers coming out and say this stuff, that when you get it through the subscription, it removes the developer, and it's a deal between the publisher and the service owner. When you buy a game, that money goes back to them. If you remember, the Outriders devs talking about how they never got the royalties from Square Enix. Square Enix made some deal, and they never got the royalties for what's going on, because they didn't even know how their game did. All the metrics of how our game is selling, what's happening to our game, it all gets diluted when it goes into a subscription service. So, as the end user, it's great when a banger or something gets dropped in a subscription. You're like, oh wow, $17, I'll sign up, I'll get the game and do that. But you can't sit there and expect every big game to be launched now on that service and sit there with a smile. That's where the foolery came in, where everybody's like, oh, all the big AAA games will be in day one in Game Pass. Phil said so. And it's like, no, that's not happening, because those games are going to sell, and they know it's going to sell, and they're not going to put it in a subscription service and let Phil determine how it's going to sell.
Yeah.
So that's the difference with this stuff. And I think the subscription services need to be what they are. Kind of backlogs, fillers for the in-between games, and then when the big games come out, you sell it to me as a consumer. You show me why I need to buy it. Show me tomorrow, Stellar Blade, why I need to buy this game, even though I've seen enough of it. But that's what you do. Show me why Final Fantasy was you got to pre-order this thing. Right. Show me that when you get behind your game, you promote it, you get behind it. That's what you do. You excite the audience to purchase this game. Don't just kind of be like, oh yeah, it's coming out this week, Game Pass, and then they got a little commercial. No, show us, you should be showing us the elements of Hellblade 2, the new combat, the new areas we're going to explore, the new enemy types. What's going on with Senya? What happened? It's been so long. Why don't you kind of package in the first game? Where's the first game? Bring that back. Remaster it. Do these things to get us excited, for the franchise.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but I feel like a character like Chai in Hi-Fi Rush could be more of a tentpole franchise.
Dude, they should have DLC for that. Rather than putting it on PlayStation, they should have dropped DLC 1 year anniversary Game of the Year edition for all the Xbox fans for their franchise. That's what they should have did.
You want to talk about
Instead, they made it behind the frosted glass, and they put it on the PS5.
Yeah, but to be fair, though, it was available for sale. It was for sale on Steam. It was on Game Pass, and 4 million people played it.
Hey, they still dropped it, dude. They still
4 million people played it.
Dude, they could have showed that at the Game Awards when Phil sat there with a smug face and had nothing at the Game Awards. He should have showed it up there on the Game Awards and hyped it up.
But Donnie, by that you mean it had enough impact that it wouldn't need to be in Game Pass in the future. That's what you mean?
No, it had no impact. That's the point.
Oh,
4 million people. That's all it had. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's nothing. DLC. No wonder they shipped. Yeah, 4 million people. That's ridiculous, though.
Well,
DLC
you talk about an icon for having Chai, but I mean, they look at Ori, and I know that they didn't own Ori, right? I think they have the publishing rights for Ori and the Will of the Wisps and the Blind Forest. But my point is that was something that they really should have made an iconic symbol for their brand. I think a lot of people would have got around that. That was an outstanding platformer that they had. They still have, but now it looks like Moon Studios has moved on. Shout out to Billy Badass. I appreciate the super chat, guys. The super chat's working tonight. It's a miracle. Danelle Brown says, "Stop the show, Jez. You have to play your boy True theme song." So,
no, there's no music now.
Shout out to Danelle Brown. He says,
but anyway, guys, I gotta jump off. I appreciate. Thank you so much for letting me come on here. And shout out to everybody here. Hit that like button. There should be more likes on this. And check out the Gaming Grindhouse. I'll be grinding grinding off some topics tomorrow.
No, I'm glad you could join us, Jez. Thanks for being here tonight, guys. Go over and check
thanks,
out the Gaming
man.
Grindhouse.
Hi, Jez.
Thanks, Jez.
See you, man.
Danelle Brown sets up the next conversation, and he even calls BG out on this one. He says, I have to agree with the devs. We don't need a PS5 Pro. I have no issues playing games at 720p, sub 30 FPS, LOL. He goes, I know BG agrees.
Oh, no.
BG, listen, I think we both like new tech. We enjoy having the latest and greatest. But BG, where are you on the PS5 Pro? That's like the one that's it's like the worst kept secret. It's definitely going to be coming out probably latter part of this year. Are you in on the PS5 Pro? Because certain developers, I like this in air quotes, certain developers are saying we haven't even tapped the possibilities of the PS5, which I think we're seeing the limitations already. What do you think, BG?
Yeah, I think a pro console should always be an option about halfway through the generation. I think a lot of the people who push back on a pro existing or the purpose of it, I just don't understand the arguments. It's because like some of their arguments are like, oh, there hasn't been a game that has really tapped out, maxed out the power, or developers aren't even capitalizing on what they have now. And
yeah,
okay,
yep.
My thing is, if you put out a pro, how does that change anything?
Exactly.
What changes? The developers aren't the ones who create the hardware. They're two completely separate teams. They have nothing to do with one another as far as like the work goes. So what I'm saying is, if you believe developers aren't taking advantage of it, of what they have now, that's not going to change for better or worse once a pro comes out.
Correct.
If anything, what they'll have is a little bit more headroom, a little bit more tech to work with, so that they possibly could capitalize on it later on. There is no downside whatsoever to this. If people are conflating two different things, so if your problem is the software isn't like validating the hardware, that's still on the developer. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So one does not, the software or how you feel about it does not erase the validity of the hardware. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's okay. You feel like the hardware doesn't validate it, so it shouldn't exist. No, that's not the way it works, and it's extremely short-sighted.
Yes.
Because you're thinking about right now. Okay, let's say you're not pleased with exactly the caliber of games that have come out this generation so far. So are they supposed to wait until a game comes out and then they start working on it? Like, okay,
Exactly.
this game
It's the other way around.
this game maxes out the console. Okay, now let's start working on the PS5 Pro now.
Right.
Oh, after? How does that make sense?
Too late.
No, you do it. You do it before, so that when what you want eventually happens, it's right there and ready. You don't wait until somebody maxes out the console. That doesn't make any sense. You have it ready for when you need it. It's extremely short-sighted to think that way, especially when towards the end of the generation is typically when the best games come out from everybody, and when you start seeing, we've already started seeing some games start to struggle. So why would you wait? Towards the end of the generation is where something like a PS5 Pro always like just justifies itself. So I find all of these arguments could just completely just null and void, in my opinion.
So BG,
Yeah,
everything
I
you said, I like
sorry.
that because no, Donnie, I definitely want to give you the mic. BG, I want to just ask you just a follow-up question. Is so you made a good point with the hardware has to be there to implement the software. You can't do it in reverse. It doesn't work that way because time just doesn't allow it. But do you think we're going to see enough games? Let's just say from 2025 to the end of 28, because I think sometime in 28 is when we'll see the new console, PS6 at least. Do you think we'll see enough games where they'll say PS5 Pro and you'll see enough of a boost, whatever they decide to do? I'm not going to pretend to be a dev. That would make you feel rewarded for your purchase, or do you think we're going to get backhanded a bit? and feel like you can get your money's worth.
I think some games that were struggling to stay at like 60, right? And I think like the expectation should be kept measured, right? This thing is not going to perform miracles. The PS4 Pro didn't perform miracles. This thing isn't going to perform miracles, even though that upscaling tech in it may do some things, additional things that over like what the PS4 Pro was able to do. We'll see.
Right.
But to me, the base, if the baseline of what it does is games that maybe were in the 40s, the 50s, like the Final Fantasy 16s, and the and maybe it may help something like Dragon's Dogma, because that has the performance and the visuals and stuff like that. Those, when you talk about those type of games, even the Rise of the Ronins, if that helps those games, to me, that's enough to justify it.
Yeah.
Because to me, like, I'm somebody with my PC parts, and I know a lot of PC gamers do this. Bro, I've changed a PC part that cost hundreds of dollars just for the return of 5 to 10 frames.
Yep.
And to
can I interrupt and ask you really quick, BG? How often do you update your PC? Like yearly? Like once a year you do, I don't know, $100 update?
I would say sometimes it's like, maybe every 2 years, like small things. Small things is probably yearly. Bigger parts, probably like 2 years. So my point is, if I do that for on my PC with, which may be the difference of a few frames, I'm not going to complain about a console that essentially does the same thing and gives me the same type of benefits. I would feel crazy to complain about that,
That's a good point, actually. Donnie, what do you think? Because I know that you're big on this topic here too. Are you? I'm in BG's camp. I've got to be honest with you, and I look at it as twofold. Everything he just said as far as performance and getting more out of it. Don't think you're going to get like floored by the Pro, but we will get more, especially with games that have been released already prior to and before. But hear me out. The other thing is, I always say Moochonomics, right? I know that I'm going to get at least $250, $300 for this trade-in, especially if it's a $599 Pro. Right?
Yeah.
So that for me is paying it forward for myself. I'm going to get the best tech out there for, let's say it's $600 and they give me $300 at GameStop, making this up. That's $300 out of pocket. But then I'll get more for a trade-in for my Pro when the PS6 comes out than an OG PS5. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm gaming on these things every day. Every day my PS5 is on every day. Like, so for me, it's something that's worth it. Now, some in the audience may go, that's not worth it for me. That's fine. I'm not here to sell it to you. I'm just giving you my point. But what do you think, Donnie, when you think about the grand scheme of things? Performance, price, trade-in.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. I mean, for me, my up until the end of last year, so it's over this now, my PlayStation 5 has 4,000 hours of gaming on it. When you get your wrap up at the end of the year, when you add that up, since it's been 4,000 hours. So to suggest for a minute that I don't get my money's worth is outrageous. So yeah, PlayStation 5 Pro will 100% be getting purchased from me. But again, each to their own, and I will trade my PS5 in, of course. And you hope you've got maybe a $300 gulf to fill. That's not too bad, But listen, each to their own, and it's you can't grudge someone if they don't want to buy it or they can't afford it. That is fine. The one thing I kind of wanted to point out a little bit is that the comments that were made about, do we need this PS5 Pro? I felt as though whatever Dev said that was possibly more kind of passing comments. I was picturing, imagine you're a dev that released a game 18 months ago that probably had to make a PS5 version and a PS4 version, because that's what was happening, and still slightly does even now. And now you're making your next game. But yeah, finally, I'm only making a PS5 version. But now you're being told there's a Pro coming out. It's like, but I haven't even made my PS5 version yet.
Yeah.
So I do feel as though there probably was comments that, we haven't utilized the PS5 because they've not had a chance to, because the delay from into the PS4 and the PS5 was probably a year, maybe 18 months longer than it would have been because of COVID. So I do think a lot was made out about whatever comments were made, and truth be told, I think most people are probably pretty positive on this, and devs want to make more powerful games, more powerful versions of their games, and I fail to believe that a dev wouldn't be happy seeing their game on a PS5 Pro at better performance than the base PS5.
Yeah, and I mean, and the one topic that we're not really bringing up is maybe we'll see even a little bit more strength come out of the PSVR 2 with this. So for anybody that has one of those at home, that was something that the Pro took advantage of with the original PSVR. Brap, what do you think about that, Brap? I know you got a PS5. Are you going to be upgrading to a Pro, Brap? I mean, you're always about the dollars and cents when it comes down to it. The numbers have to kind of make sense to you. Is this something you'll pick up, or you're going to wait and see?
I don't know, man. I'm probably going to wait and see, to be honest with you. I think the big sticking point for me is how much trade-in GameStop's going to give me for a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I wish we had the great gaming Forte here. We'd like to get some.
The thing is, I
knowledge,
mostly game on PC, so
you do.
That's the other thing I factor in. Like, am I? I don't use my PlayStation 5 a whole lot. But so there's that. But again, I mean, the trade-in value, could be something I lean into. And again, when you have that PlayStation Pro. When the PlayStation 6 comes out, you're probably get higher trading value than having the base PlayStation 5. So those are things that will factor into my decision.
And here's something that probably factors into very few people's decisions in homes, but I'm looking forward to hopefully a new, sleeker design. So if it just happens to even look better, well, I mean, let's be honest. You
leave that design alone, Mooch. You leave that alone.
I have no problem with it. I don't mind it, but I wouldn't. I like the new slim model. I know a lot of people say it's not that big of a deal. I think it's a big deal. I like the slim model. I don't mind it. I don't have one.
You can fit it through your door in your house now, which is always a benefit.
Yes,
as well,
it is substantially smaller. I know that Sony's not necessarily putting it in the slim category. I know that we in the community are mentioning it that way. That's just the SKU now, right? But what do you think, Kofi? I know you're on your PlayStation 5 quite a bit. Is this something that you may be picking up?
Yeah, I think it was Donnie. I think he has me beat. I have like maybe 3,500 hours since the PlayStation 5 came out. But my thing is
rookie numbers, mate. Rookie numbers.
Yeah. So I painted my PS5 with the PlayStation 1 gray, and I'm like, I love what I did with the customization and the fact that I can't migrate the plates. I don't think the Pro is going to be the same shape or anything like that. So I'm like, man, like kind of have this nostalgia already. Just look at it. It's sitting right next to me right now. So it would have to be me buying, a Pro to sit at another television in the house. I'm okay with that. I just want to see what it is officially. I know there's been a ton of talks and leaks, but I might not get it day one. It depends. Like I'm really trying to stack some games I want to buy.
So Kofi, we're gonna get Kofi. I'm going right back to you with the design because we do have to discuss that for a second. But the Great Gaming Forte is in the chat. He says, Mooch, $302 trade-in right now. And you guys know whenever they have a new console, they're like, if you're a Pro member, we're gonna throw another 10% on top of that, especially if it's going towards a new console. So I'm not gonna embellish anymore, but if it's 302 right now, let's say you're upwards of 320, 325, if that's what they do generally when you're trading in for a console. And Forte, you can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but I've been a Pro member for a very long time. That's generally how it works. If it's a $600 box and you're getting half of it back, if not more than half, guys, I don't know. If you're not putting the hours into your PS5, no, then don't do it. I cannot see not doing it. 302 right now, guys. Right now, that's almost enough for me to go get a new. I went to go get one that's the because they sell the. How you said you have the grayer plates, Kofi. You can get that whatever it is. I'm going to call it timeless gray in the new sleeker slim model. It comes like that, and that's a.
See, I got mine custom painted to actual PlayStation 1. I know that sounds really like
no, it's cool. That's very cool.
Yuppie or whatever, but it's not the generic one that you can buy online.
No, yours is custom. Yes.
Yeah.
How does that work with a trade-in?
I get it.
Can you even trade in a custom one, or will GameStop take a trade-in with painted panels?
I hope so.
Forte, if you're
I'm
listening,
not sure though.
Forte, if you're still listening, let me know in the chat, will you? Will GameStop take a custom, detailed trade-in? Is that up the ante or does that lower the value? Because think about it. What's one man's treasure is another man's garbage, and vice versa.
Facts.
So I'm just saying I don't know how corporate GameStop would look at something like that.
Worst case, stick it on Facebook Marketplace. Get $350.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
People will appreciate what I did with it. So
Yeah. Seeds, are you getting a PS5 Pro?
I have to be very careful here because of NDA with a particular company.
Oh, wow. What?
I'll just say that if the PS5 Pro is a thing and it does ever release, then yes, I would entertain getting one. That's
Jeez.
as far as I can go on that.
Well, my
topic.
listen, much like Spider-Man, my Mooch senses just went off, so that means I got to talk to
Yeah,
Seeds
mine
behind the
did too.
scenes.
NDA.
Oh, right, NDA. That means
Yeah.
what the?
I was hoping I wouldn't get called on this one, but I'm going to leave it to what everybody else says.
Okay, Seeds, we'll leave you be for now. We'll have to have you back on the show once that NDA releases, though. Nonetheless, great stuff there. All right, let's get to some games here because I got to talk to you guys about this. BG, what's your take? Are you excited about Stellar Blades demo tomorrow? Did you get a chance to play it before they ripped it down a few weeks ago? Is this a game that's been on your radar? I know we're talking Stellar Yams here. I know it's going to be all over Twitter. It's going to be all over YouTube. But I mean, I watched a lot of the big news publications had a lot of footage that came out based upon the demo. I watched a snippet about 10 minutes yesterday on a couple of big channels. Looks like a lot of fun. People are comparing it to a bit of a Sekiro type of, I didn't see that, but people are saying Sekiro type of action. What do you think, BG? Is this your game for you or not really?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a really cool action game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was more near, but then I did see, like, I think it was IGN posted it's Sekiro meets Nair. So, so yeah, I was halfway on that. But no, it looks like a really cool action game that intertwines, melee parrying, a little bit of gunplay, just really fast action. It looks really appealing. I think it's gonna be something that really surprises people, and it's going to be just a quality, a really quality game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is great that they lean into the whole, sexual appeal thing.
Yes.
Gaming in general has course corrected and veered a little bit too far off the spectrum where they completely avoid it. And this game is like, we're not gonna hide from it, which probably helps it. It does probably help it a bit. That's not gonna save the game, though. It at the end of the day, it has to be good. It has to be a good game. It doesn't matter how it looks. But yeah, I look forward to actually playing the demo tomorrow.
Yeah, no, same here. Shout out to Ron Slusher. He goes, of course, he's being funny. Does Quantum Error show us the power of the PS5? I think BG just said it best when he said it has to be a good game. But this is another game, okay, where PlayStation gets the rights to it. And of course, they put money into it. And the devs have even come out and said that without that money and that time and that help, the game may not be what it is. BG, I know that whenever somebody on Twitter will say, what do you think this game's Metacritic's going to be? You'll always kind of, quote it and say, 90 or 85 or 83 or whatever. What do you think this game, you've seen enough of it, just if you had to take a stab at it, what do you think this game ends up landing as far as meta? I'm just curious.
Man, this is a little bit of a tough one, but I'm gonna go 85.
Okay. Yep.
I think 85. Yeah. I can't picture high 80s.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that, but I think 85 is going to be a solid game. Definitely great in the action and gameplay department, visuals. Probably maybe lacking I can imagine it lacking in the story department a little bit. But maybe it could surprise us and be at one of those high 80s. But if to be safe, I would say mid 80s, 85, maybe 86.
That's right, and it's not to just agree. 86 was the number I had here. That's the number I think that it can live up to. I don't think you're going to get higher than that. Not from what I've seen. It would really have to surprise. I didn't get a chance to play the demo when it first popped off.
I didn't either.
When it was supposed to. So what do you think, Donnie? Is this do you think me and BG, do you think that 85 to 86? If you feel comfortable throwing a number out, throw a number out. If not, I'm just anxious to hear what you think of the game.
Yeah, I'll make this my my last comment before I jump off, gents. No, listen, I'm really excited for it. I was excited for it when we saw the kind of the state of play, and not just for the jiggly boobies. You know, I think it does look a great game. You know, so we'll put that out there. So for me, excited for the demo tomorrow. I can see me being on story mode. I think we said that on Twitter, didn't we, Mooch? That the challenge, it looks very, very challenging, but looking forward to it. Score wise, I can kind of see it 82. I think I don't think it'll be less than 80. I think 80, 81, 82, right about there. I think using it a little bit high.
Okay, all right,
Just a little bit high.
That would make some sense. What do you think, Kofi?
I'll start with the number. I think it's going to be 83.
Okay.
I honestly, this is maybe me just paying too much attention to Twitter. I could definitely take blame for that. I think there's going to be some reviewers that are going to be unhappy with the sexual appeal and of Eve, right? I think her name is Eve.
Yes.
And I think they're just going to think it's a move backwards, for representation in the gaming industry. I personally am very excited for the game. It's going to be day one. But I don't know. I see that happening a lot. And I think BG touched on it. Like, it seems that there was a lot of political correctness that went on in these last 10 years. And it's interesting that PlayStation has happened to publish some titles that kind of go against that. You know, I'm still in the middle of Final Fantasy Rebirth, and I'm like, okay, that is not the narrative I remember seeing people were upset about, but they're still coming out. So, yeah, I just think there's going to be one publisher that's going to try to make a statement, and it's going to bring it down. But I still think that the user score is going to be higher than the meta.
Okay,
sure.
so yes. Maybe the meta kind of intertwines with a lot of what you're saying, Kofi. So let's talk about the user score for a second from the gamer's perspective. You know, where we're not taking points on or off for looks of character. What do you think the gameplay? Because that's one of the things I have here. Also, as it's scrolling through here, is basically how does the game rate gameplay versus its visuals? Visuals you just talked about and conquered. What do you think about the gameplay itself?
At first, I thought the game, like, this is maybe the second debut they had of gameplay. I thought the gameplay looked a little bit like stiff. And then the more and more I saw, I said, oh, no, they really kind of spent that extra investment from PlayStation and made this gameplay look pretty good. I'll spend a little bit of time with the demo. I'll be honest. This might be a little controversial. I kind of spend a little bit less time with demos. Like, I'll play it for to make sure the core gameplay makes sense to me, and then after that, I kind of just want to enjoy the game for what it is.
Kofi, you must have watched the 500 episodes of CrossFire, because that's absolutely in Mooch's camp. I'll play it tomorrow to get a sense of it, but I won't play through the entire thing, because honestly, once I know I like it and I want to buy it and want to play it, I'm just going to do that. I always feel like demos sometimes. And I said this, I don't remember what the panel thinks about this one particular game, but like Forspoken, like I played Forspoken. I thought it was, listen, you're not going to sit here and I'm not going to advertise it and say you need to go buy it. No, I liked Forspoken, but I'll tell you one thing, that demo was horrible. And the demo, basically, I remember I said I played the demo and I was like, I didn't like it. And then I had someone write me on, and they were like, dude, trust me, you'll like this game, give it a shot. And I picked it up, and they were right. It was good. The story made no sense. A lot of the stuff was wacky, the way they threw you into the demo. They're like, here, you're this person, this is the situation, and you're in this world. And I was like, it doesn't make any sense. And the moves didn't make any sense, and the special powers didn't make any sense that they gave you in the demo. It was all thrown at you. Then when I played it, I'm like, this all makes sense. I like the story. I love the main character. I love what's going on. I don't know. For some reason, I ended up liking it. I really did like it a lot.
Yeah.
But demos can sometimes sour people, so I'm with you. I'm really with you on that.
I'll never forget playing the Tales of Arise demo. I think I did like 2 arts in battle. I was like, I'm buying this game. I was just like, I uninstalled the demo. I'm like, there's no reason to waste my time. I'll finish another game I own while I wait for the official release of Tales of Arise. So
it's funny. Yep. So Kofi says it. Donnie brings it up. BG, Brap, what do you think here? At the end of the day, I got to ask you. So, I think the sales for this game, they're probably going to be pretty good. I think the sales are going to be pretty good. I mean, based just off the art design. I think it's going to do well.
I mean, in terms of like Metacritic score,
Right.
I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I hate assigning score without actually playing like at least a demo. But
well, we all kind of do. You listen, a lot of
yeah,
games come out.
I
and
can
like,
see
what
an
do you
80.
think?
You know?
Oh wow,
I can see an 80.
An 80.
Yeah.
All right. It's
see an
funny
80.
after hearing everybody's like comments and thoughts. I mean, listen, anywhere from I would think 83 to 86 would not surprise me if we're doing a range. But I know it's not really fun to do a range because if you do a range on Twitter or X, it's people are like, no, they want a number. You got to call a number out. So you're saying 80. That's interesting. Seeds, what do you think, Seeds? I want to get your take on this.
I'm going to be reviewing the game and getting an early copy, so I'm going to hold off on giving a score. Just
Seeds.
Man.
Seeds.
Out of respect for that, but I'll comment on the game and what I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
That I think you guys nailed it. There'll probably be some review outlets that dock it just based off of presentation. It's probably the best way to put it. But I think that overall users it will go over well with. I think that the visual two things that I think are going to hurt its review possibilities with outlets. Okay, I want to specify outlets.
Yeah.
One is the difficulty, that level that we are hearing about of it. I think that a lot of people will probably be able to get a sniff of that tomorrow with the demo. And then two will be the assets that are shown. I think that some people reviewing the game might be uncomfortable with some of that. I personally am not. I'm cool with it. But I do think that some will dock some points off of that for their own reasoning. And, unfortunately, I wish that wasn't the case, because I think that when you review a game or review something in general, I think you need to take your own bias and your own belief systems out of it. Which is why when I do my reviews on my channel and do my platinum trophies, I don't assign a particular score to games. I tell you pros and cons, who should buy and probably who should not. And it takes that bias out of there of giving a score, in my opinion. So I think that you're going to see, in my opinion, a higher user score.
Okay. Kofi had mentioned that, and I do agree with you there, Seeds. So wait, let's go back to the difficulty for a second. I did catch wind of this. Is that actually meaning, so are they doing what From does and there's no option? It's just, the difficulty is what it is, or there's no scaling?
From my
there's
understanding,
a story mode.
Yeah, there'll be. From my understanding, I don't have my copy yet, so but there's going to be 2 selections, is my understanding, of difficulties. But even from my understanding, even the second option is still going to challenge you. But if you want to,
see, I kind of take this the same way. And BG, I know this has got to kind of make your ears bleed a bit, because I'm more in BG's camp here. I actually want it to be difficult. I find that to be. I do
too.
Right? So, like, I'm playing through Elden Ring right now, and I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, you're just getting to that now? Yeah, I am. So, shame on me, right? But I'm absolutely loving it. And I have tons of people while I'm streaming and playing it. They're like, Mooch, let me jump in. I can actually help you here. And I'm like, guys, I don't care if I die like 3 or 4 times at a big boss. Like I want to win. I want to beat this thing. I want to do it on my own accord. I just like that challenge. So I understand that that's not for everybody, by the way. I respect that too. But I mean, I also feel like when you go to a restaurant, right, and you get your favorite dish, if I order a steak at one of my favorite places in New York, like, I don't ask for the A1 sauce. You know what I mean? I just don't. Because I want to eat it the way the chef intended. Like, I like playing games the way that the devs intended. If the devs say this is how you should play the game, I go, okay, I'm taking your word for it. You made it. I'm just playing it.
I think there's going to be incentive there for you too, especially for. I mean, I like to do completionists, and I've gotten completely hooked on doing platinum trophies.
Yeah, there's something to that for sure.
Yeah, so I do think that there'll be an incentive there to keep that difficulty where it's supposed to be.
Okay. No, that's a good thing for sure. I want to ask you guys, I know it's after 9 o'clock, and I told these guys 2 hours. And Donnie, I know in your world right now, people are having, eggs and bacon right now. It's morning for Donnie. But I do got to ask you guys a question. This is another, it means a lot to me because I'm a huge fan of the Bioshock games, and I'm a huge fan of Ken Levine's work, his work. I don't know him personally, naturally. But Judas previews hit this week. I watched all of them. Start with BG real quick. BG, did you see the Judas previews? There's upwards of, I think, almost 10 minutes out there. You had Jeff Keighley that did an interview and played it. You had Ryan McCaffrey also got some time with it. And I believe the Friends Per Second podcast, FPS, which has got Skill Up, and then they also got a chance to take a crack at it and interview Ken Levine. What'd you think when you saw it, BG? Is this going to be the next successor to Bioshock from Ken Levine?
I actually didn't watch the previews. I know what some people said. I don't know if they showed new gameplay. But listen, I'm a huge Bioshock fan.
Yeah, me too.
I don't give like automatic passes to a lot of developers, or even to like one notable person. But I don't need to see anything. Like it's a day one.
Yes,
Ken Levine. It's essentially just a spiritual successor to Bioshock, because of course he can't have the Bioshock name,
right?
But it's Bioshock in space. It's a day one. I already know. I just believe because it's Ken Levine. I've watched his interviews. He's a perfectionist to an absolute issue. Yep. It's an issue for him.
It is a problem.
That's why this game has been in development for like 9 years.
Yep.
That's why he decided to make like this independent studio. I think this is his own independent studio, and he didn't want to be beholden to some publisher that was going to. He is under a publisher, I believe, but I think he said they had to understand, like, I'm going to take my time with this to get it exactly how I want it. So get your expectations in check if we're going to make this game
right.
So I know he's a perfectionist, and I know exactly what this game is going to be story-wise, visually, gameplay-wise. Like the Bioshock games are absolutely amazing. So I don't need to see anything. I already know when it comes out, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a top game. It's going to be a game of the year contender. It's going to be one of my favorite games whenever it comes out.
Now that's it. So 2 things you said there that I want to just piggyback. First of all, everything you said I think is gospel, BG, because I'm a huge Ken Levine fan as well. And if you play the Bioshock collection, I love the little reels you can collect in the middle of it, and then watch the interviews that he did. I believe with a younger Jeff Keighley at the time. I think it was Jeff Keighley who was doing those with him. Anyway. But the point of the matter that there's 2 things that I'm going to leave as a question mark, because nothing is in absolutes, right? On the internet, nothing is 100%. The first thing that I thought was interesting is that people are saying it is it's not people, I believe Ken is saying it. It's a roguelite type of game, which I found interesting. How they're going to handle that. I mean, I don't think when they say roguelite, I don't think they mean anything like Hades, of course. But it will be something where I think you progress to a certain point, and then you would have to, if you don't get to the next checkpoint of some sort, but it would be a very far along checkpoint, you may have to do certain things again. I don't know how they're going to work that into it. That would be something that I would have to say is a bit, I wouldn't use the word alarming, BG, but I thought that to be a bit interesting when it came down to that. The other thing that is a bit alarming is I thought we were going to get this in fall of 24. And maybe I missed something in one of the interviews because I was just so excited looking at the amazing gameplay. But, and the other thing with this game is the decisions you make are so impactful on the game. That's what I love about it. But is that I hear it's coming out in 25, which when you said game of the year contender, I think you're right. But if you're going to go, if any game's coming out in 25, you're going to be going up against, what is the inevitable GTA 6, which I don't know if that would, just ruin its chances. But when you hear roguelite, BG, do you think does that take a bit of the excitement out for you, or no, that enhances it?
I mean, I like roguelike, so it doesn't bother me at all.
Okay.
But I imagine with Ken Levine, he doesn't make any decision like disconnected from the narrative. Like if this is a roguelike where it entails you have to, like, you die and then you have to go back to a certain point, that's going to tie into the narrative and the story. It's going to be for a purpose, and it's going to like make sense, right? He's not making, if this is a roguelike game, he's not making it just because he wanted it to be a roguelike game. Right. It's going to have some type of, intent and purpose and tie directly in. So no, that doesn't bother me. I'm curious to see if it's like actually completely roguelike or if it just has some elements of it.
Exactly.
Though, yeah, and yeah, I mean GTA. I'm gonna believe GTA 6 is coming out 2026 until I'm given further, information. That it's not. I never believed the whole 2025 release date. I'm believing 2026, and GTA games can be beat in Game of the Year.
That's true. That is true. I like.
Yeah, they can be beat. Like the thing with GTA games is nobody's beating its sales ever. Right. But Game of the Year, they can be beat.
That's true. Right. They're not. I think no matter how big the scope is and how many more buildings we can go into, how many more cars you can steal, how many helicopters you can crash into, whatever, and do it. Like you said, BG, it is still a GTA game, right? They're not gonna. It's GTA 5, but magnified by 100x. Which, don't get me wrong, still very impressive. But like you said, GTA can be beat. I definitely firmly believe that's a true statement. Well, now if that happens, that's yet to be seen. And I like your 2026 prediction because yes, there's rumors that are coming out that are saying it's going to get pushed back because of the issues with developers and working from home and how that's made complications. But then you also had another report that contradicted that by Bloomberg saying, listen, don't take things out of contrast. It's still coming in 25. But I think until we actually get something that's a clear date, like an actual date, like April 3rd, 2025, I'm with BG. This looks like it could be pushed off to 26 easily, especially now that the news is out there. But I will ask Donnie real quick. I got to ask you, what did you think of Judas? I think it's a worthy enough title. BG already gave it its accolades. I agree with him. I'm a huge Ken Levine fan. But this is somebody, Bioshock, even for people who never played Bioshock, will tell you, I heard that's a great game. So it kind of warrants the conversation when this came out. Do you think Judas is going to be all that? Or do you think it's maybe a bit of hype?
I've got a confession. I'm the only person in the world that doesn't really like Bioshock.
Oh my God, we found one. We found one, everybody.
You found me. You found me, people.
Get him.
But I must admit, I actually did think this looked really, really good. The roguelike thing, I'm intrigued. I feel as though we're getting to the point where it's a bit like Souls-like. Like every game doesn't have to be Souls-like, and just like every game doesn't have to be roguelike. We're kind of getting to that realm where do we need this in what is Bioshock 4? So I'm actually quite interested to see how they incorporate that. And because for me, when I hear roguelike, I expect Hades, that I die and I start again, and hopefully with little bits of progression. So in my head, that's exactly what it is. But when you say roguelike, but we'll see. But it definitely garners the hype because it's Ken Levine, and it's, like I said, for all intents and purposes, it's Bioshock 4, isn't it?
Yeah, if Bioshock in space is what they're calling it.
They've actually called it that, Yes. So, and I see Nate Dogg in the chat is saying I don't like Bioshock either. So hey, there's two of us.
So there's a few of you out there, guys. Don't spread that too much. No, but it's funny you say that, but I just hope it's not like a Deathloop type of roguelike, because I think Deathloop had such potential, and the way that it was like, come back to this area in the middle of the day, and then you can open up this door and then talk to this person and then go back there at night, and when you die you're back on the beach. And it's like I wish it, because I actually liked Deathloop and I thought everything about it was awesome. I just didn't like the way that they implemented the roguelike into it. So I hope that's something that TrueWiddy says, I am not a Bioshock fan either. I really would recommend all you guys go back and try that again. I think something happened. Shout out to the great Liquid's back again. He says, if engagement doesn't translate to money, it doesn't mean shit. So shout out to Liquid again. I apologize, I didn't read that. That was back when we were talking about the handheld. DC Gaming says, what is good, people? Hit that like button, sub, and show support for one of the best podcasts out there. DC, thanks for being here, buddy. Always appreciate DC Gaming. Always been supporting the channel for years now. Really, really appreciate DC. TrueWiddy, of course, coming in with he's not a Bioshock fan. Seeds and Kofi, what can I ask for you guys? Are you Judas fans or not?
Yeah. I saw the preview, and I think I agree with everything BG said. I thought I caught in there that maybe Skill Up or one of the others said that it had procedurally generated environments in it as well.
That's correct.
So that not every experience is going to be the same. So I guess with who the developer is and his artistic nature and just how thorough he is, we could play through that game and I might have an experience that BG doesn't have on his first time beating the game. And then, we talk and I'm like, hey, this is what happened in mine. He tells me this is what happened in mine. The replayability there could be, I don't want to say endless, but who knows how many endings that game could have if the procedurally generated environment and the fact that it does have that roguelite elements, if there are different narratives that intertwine whenever you load in to a new environment and into a new setting, like how is that going to look? Are we going to have, where it's like, you have that decision making of like a Baldur's Gate 3 where there's, hundreds of variations of endings. That's what I'm really excited about because because I am a Bioshock fan, so the rest of you guys who aren't are weird. So, but I think that because of who's making it, I do think that replayability is something that I focused on whenever I was watching those previews.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, how many different endings could we possibly have based off the decisions that we make on each run? Or, whenever we die and we come back, if we decide to go through this path or maybe link up with this person or whatever. It just seemed like it was so vast that it could offer, like BG said, those points of inspiration, those key points in narrative and design and unique and going outside of the boundary and being, artistically aggressive, so to speak, to get up to that game of the year contender. So I'm really excited for it, man. I know the previews were pretty limited, but I definitely look forward to seeing more of that game.
Yeah, right there.
I just wanted to confirm really quick. So they're saying Judas is going to be a roguelike?
That's what every article and they are saying. Yeah. Yeah.
I love the Bioshock series in general. I'm typically picky about roguelikes. Like I love Dead Cells, I love Returnal. And then there are some, I'll be honest, maybe I'm just not good at roguelikes. I'm not gonna claim I'm great and that they're bad design, but sometimes just going back to the beginning, it just I don't know, it's not motivating. But when you mention the procedural generation, when I think of that design, I love it. And I have to once again bring up something like Remnant 2, where I remember a friend of mine, we had a heated argument over one of the regions in Remnant 2 where he had one experience where he had gotten arrested, and I had one experience where I didn't even see jail time, and we were like, you're not in the same zone as me! And we literally were like so upset with each other. We're both idiots. But the fact that we really just didn't realize that it was the procedural generation and the unique storytelling. So if that would happen in Judas, that's great. I would give it a chance just on that, even though I'm typically it's 50-50 with me for roguelikes.
Yeah, I know your point. When you say go back to the beginning, it does take you out of that element. But that exactly, Remnant 2 did a great job of that and recreating each of the areas and giving each gamer a different experience within the same world. But making it the same but so different at the same time. I do want to go back to the first thing that BG just said, is this is something that's been in development for 9 years. If you watch the interviews with anything with Ken Levine, go watch them. You can actually YouTube them if you haven't. I watched them through the game, but if you don't have the game or don't want to, go check those out. I believe it was with Jeff Keighley, young Jeff Keighley, a long time ago, man. Before he was doing the Game Awards and all that stuff. And he interviewed him about Bioshock and how they came up with the little sisters and how they came out with the big daddies and the whole nine, and like just the world of Rapture. It's to see him discuss it and how his mind is moving while he's talking about it. He's kind of a creative, he's what they call it, an evil genius. So it's just fun to see how he creates. I have full confidence with him being the perfectionist that he is, that the game's going to be absolutely amazing. I will be buying that day one for sure. I'm probably going to double dip, probably going to buy that on PC and buy it on PS5. I'm definitely going to be streaming that game. That game is just going to be something that I live, breathe, and sleep for a very long time when it does come out, and it's rumored to be 25. I thought it was going to be end of 24, but I saw a couple of articles saying 25, which that was kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. We waited this long. What's another, 9 to 12 months? That being said, guys, I want to say I've kept the great Donnie here. Donnie's over in Scotland. He's probably going to go do kegs and eggs right after this. I want to say thanks to everybody that's here, guys. Please hit the like button before you do leave. Hit the subscribe button. I saw we got a couple of new subscribers as we went through the night, which was awesome. Thanks, guys, for the super chats. The show was just amazing. Tonight just flowed. The chemistry on this panel tonight was, I don't, listen, as a host, I'm telling you, this was as smooth as it gets. This was a bunch of professionals talking video games, and I love every second of it. I'll go in reverse order here and say shout out to the great BG. BG, thanks for being here tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Love your take on games. I know, listen, if you're not following BG on Twitter, go over and do that immediately, because BG's takes are some of the best. BG, let them know where they can find you, and thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, find me Broken Games HDR. It's the YouTube channel. Weapon Wheel podcast is on Sundays at 5 o'clock. We just celebrated 400 episodes, so yeah, go check that last one out. And yeah, on Twitter, Broken Games HDR. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, appreciate it, PG. Thanks for being here tonight. Really, really means a lot. The great Kofi who came in. Kofi goes, I'm going to be late. And then Kofi just popped right on. I go, Kofi, how can you be late and here at the same time? He goes, no, I'm in the car. I'm driving. I'm on the phone. I'm like, buddy, just drive home safe. We'll get you on the show as soon as you get here. Kofi, always great to have you. Love your takes, because you really do give us that. You just give us coast to coast different type of information from gaming. And that perspective is something that is eye-opening for me, and I think for a lot of the audience. But Kofi, let everybody know where they can find you. Thanks for being here tonight.
Absolutely, man. You got to give a shout out to Mooch for being patient with me. There's many days I just, family time cuts out my podcast time. But no, you guys can catch me on Twitter, creative_Kofi. I also am finally coming back to a Monday morning podcast called the Vitamin G Podcast. My best friend is on there, so you can see a PlayStation guy and an Xbox guy yell at each other. But we also have a good friend of ours who's really into Nintendo, so it's kind of like a jack of all trades, and we hash it out, between all the different topics going on in the world. So that is Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Great. Looking forward to that, Kofi. Nice. Always good to have another show to check out. Kofi, make sure you let me know more and more about that. I'll definitely retweet it and promote it for you guys. Looking forward to catching that show. The great Detective Seeds, DS is here with us tonight. And I'll tell you, Seeds, NDAs, early games... we got to talk behind the scenes here a little bit. No, Seeds, great to have you on the show tonight, buddy. Love your takes. Shame on Mooch. Shame on me for not having you on this show sooner. It certainly won't be your last time if you'll grace us with your presence again. Seeds, let people know where they can find you, and thanks so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the invite to come on. I'd love to come back anytime that you guys have me. Detective Seeds on Twitter, just Detective Seeds on YouTube. I am fortunate enough to get a lot of early access to games, so I do reviews, and then I've really gotten really passionate and addicted to trophy and achievement hunting. So if you like that type of content, if you like another outlet to check out reviews, I do get early access to a wide variety of publishers and developers. So again, thank you so much for having me on, man, and I really, really appreciate it.
Great, Seeds. Great to have you on the show. And Donnie, love having Donnie on the show. Don, honestly, I know you said Thursdays may not be your best night, but I got news for you. Whatever you're doing on Thursdays, clear them off. Clear your schedule. We got to get you back on CrossFire. You guys can find him over at Donnie's tweets, over on Twitter. And, of course, he's a co-host over at the Pure Dead Gaming Afterlife podcast. Donnie, let people know where they can find you everywhere, because I probably didn't say it nearly as well as you would. But thanks for being here tonight. I know I kept you here a little bit longer, about 30 minutes over the time I promised, but it was worth every minute having you here, and I'm looking forward to your return.
No, Mooch, listen, thank you very much for having me. And no, listen, it's late, but it's good. We're all good. We're all good. No, I appreciate your time. Yeah, you can get me at Donny's tweets on Twitter, or X as the cool kids call it nowadays. I belong to a podcast called Pure Dead Gaming, where like Seeds does, we do reviews and things like that as well. I personally, because apparently I'm the biggest pony, I host the fortnightly PlayStation podcast of that. So yes, you can find us on Pure Dead Gaming. Thank you very much.
Donnie, great to have you on the show. Both you and Seeds first times, and an outstanding showing. Guys, I want to say this. Please, guys, hit the like button on the way out. Don't be bashful. Hit the subscribe button. We're over the 12,000 mark, which is fantastic. That being said, Mooch TV everywhere. That's on X. That's here on YouTube. It's over on Twitch, M00CHTV. Drop the O's for zeros. Guys, we are going to be streaming more Elden Ring Saturday afternoon. I would be doing Sunday too, but it's Easter, so we're going to take a day off, and then we'll be back on Monday. So Saturday, streaming Elden Ring. Monday, streaming Elden Ring. We're getting prepped up, getting our character ready for that DLC coming out in June. You guys are not going to want to miss it. It's always fun to watch Mooch go through the world, succeed, and die a few times. Nonetheless, hit that like button, enjoy some games. We'll see you next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time right here. Peace out and good night. Go play some video games. We'll catch you guys later.